Okay, we're back. Puzzle number 4. I just finished doing the horses. It was a pretty small puzzle. Went pretty easily, so I am going to do another one today. I kind of think I want to do the deer, but I think the last one only took like an hour or so maybe I'll do one of these other ones. The cats might be a pain in the butt because they're identical looking cats, and that might be a little bit hard. Let's find out. Let's do the cats. If I can find it. Gray. Okay. There we go.
Brady versus Grey counter at 0 for Brady, 1 for me. So I guess it doesn't really matter, but
Your latest video is about, for those who haven't seen it, and if you listen to Hello Internet and you're a fan of CGP Grey, I'm a bit disappointed you haven't watched the video yet. But just for those who don't know, is about family trees and how they work and
yes,
how cousins work and grandparents and all those sort of things.
mm-hmm. Yes, the cousins is really the heart of that video, but it's about the titles and family structures is what it's about.
Why did you make this video?
This one has been on my list for either 2 or 3 years now, because I myself went to a family reunion for my wife's family, and I didn't know any of these terms. Cousins, the cousins is really the complicated one, but even the things like grandniece, exactly who is this person who's a grandniece? So I was at a family reunion, and of course I'm an in-law to all of these people in my wife's family.
Yeah.
And I ended up at this family reunion partly because just all of these people were new to me. Of course, my wife knows who they are; they're her family. But this was the first family reunion I had been to since we got married, and I ended up going around like a total nerd with my iPad and talking to people and figuring out where they go on the family tree and making a little family tree to try to connect everybody. Because
Well, they got a pretty accurate impression of who you were pretty quickly then.
do you think that's fair? I don't think that's fair.
Wandering around with your iPad filling in a family tree.
That might be accurate.
Anyway,
But so I did that just mainly
Yeah.
because it is very rare for me to be in a social situation where I'm actually going to meet such a large number of new people.
yeah.
And since my family is very small, I had no mental framework in which to place all of these people, and that's partly why I thought, okay, if I'm going to meet 30 new people, I need a diagram for all of you so that I can understand where you are in relationship to my wife, and so therefore where you are in relationship to me. So that was very handy, although anyway, since that experience, I had been thinking of doing the family tree video for quite a while.
And now you have.
Now I have, yes.
Was it hard to make? It's taken you years. What was the roadblock between you thinking I should make a video about this and actually making that video? It's not like you had to, this stuff wouldn't have been hard to find out, I imagine.
No, this is one of the things where I haven't been I've been actively working on this for 3 years. That'd be quite sad. It's just been on my list of projects to work on, and for various reasons, it eventually filtered its way up to the top of the list. This one was relatively quick. That's partly because the net neutrality video ended up bumping back something else that was supposed to happen, and then I was trying to pick something that would be faster to do, and this seemed like a natural topic to pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm relatively pleased with it. It's a weird one though, because I've
It's
actually.
not typical of your videos, or certainly of your recent videos.
So lots of people have said that. I'm curious. Can you tell me what about it do you think is atypical, or why do you think it's different? If you could, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I don't mind being put on the spot, but I'll have to think. I'll kind of have to think on my feet a bit.
I can give you Brady thinking time.
No, I'll just make it up as I go, and I mean, it kind of visually it was different because it had a lot less variety than the usual videos, because you kind of just navigated your way around this family tree, up it and down it and left and right. So it didn't have the feeling of like a journey that some of the other ones have of moving to different places and different people and different. So in that respect, it was visually different. I found it more confusing than I have found some of your videos. Like I think I said to you after I watched it, just in our own personal communication, I said to you, I had to watch it a second time, like it kind of, and I think this has a lot to do with me, being just the way I absorb information. I'm not a good attention payer, and maybe I'm just a bit slow, but the fast videos I struggle with anyway. I learn and absorb at a slower speed maybe, and this one was kind of like, whoa, what was that? Like, I did take a lot from it, and I liked it, and I really liked, and I think it was a really good video to have made and to exist. I think you're really filling a need, which is both good for altruistic reasons and hopefully it's good for you, because lots of people will watch it over a long, it's a very timeless video.
Yes, it is a good time. It's funny though, two things with that. There was one part of this video that I struggled with, which is I had two different audio tracks. I recorded the audio in two very different ways. One of which was much slower, and one of which was the one that ended up going live, which is the faster version of it.
Right.
And the problem with podcasts, I'm going to forget stuff that I've said before. So this is going to be my blanket. I may have said this before, and I'll try not to say that again in the podcast. But in the videos, I'm trying to be very intentional about having the speed be inversely proportional to how much I'm expecting people to remember something.
Okay. Yeah.
So I go slower when I want people to remember things, or I think something is complicated. And I go faster when it's you just need to get the gist of this, but the details don't matter. Like lists of countries, I always do fast.
Of course, yeah.
Because I don't expect someone to remember 27 countries.
The idea is just to know that a big list exists.
That's exactly it. That's the time where it's perfectly fine to go really fast.
Yeah.
And so I felt like this whole video should have been slower. That was one reason why I had the slower audio track. But like you said, with the visuals being very different, I was really aware when I was animating it that because there was less going on,
it could have been quite pedestrian, just slowly roaming around that family tree.
The video felt like death with the slow audio track.
Okay.
It was amazing how much of a difference it made. I thought, boy, I can't put this up. It wasn't even much longer. I think the slower audio track ended up being, it was like 30 or 40 seconds longer in total.
Yeah.
So maybe I guess the whole thing is 10 or 20% longer, but it really made such a difference that I thought, even though I would like this video to be slower, it has to be faster because of the nature of the visuals. And you will laugh at this, but I actually, when I was animating it, I thought, you know what? This would make a really good Brady video.
Yeah.
I thought having someone explain this in your video format might work much better, because in preparation to do this one, I spoke to a few people in person trying to walk through the cousins thing to try to see how people, where do people get confused by it.
Yeah.
And I found in person this worked much better. And I could see like, oh, there's a little conversation back and forth between people. This is good. And so I was immediately thinking like the number file videos. This is almost a perfect topic for someone with a pen and a piece of paper to go through, and let's talk about the relationships of all these people. So, like we were discussing last week with originality, I think this is a topic that you could totally do again, and I would be very interested to see the family file video on cousin structure. I
Like
think that could.
as an interview though, or as like just an explainer, someone like me asking questions, or just a good explainer doing it as a.
I think the way you do most of your videos, you are filming somebody else
Yeah.
talking about it. You're obviously asking questions in person, but you often edit those questions out, and then you are filming the person going through the things. And I think it could be done again in that way, and be another interesting video to watch, because I agree, it ended up being a little too fast, but like I said, I think that would just was the natural result of the way the animations worked.
The interesting comparison for me, and I don't want to compare your videos to mine because I think your videos are better in a lot of ways, in most ways. But the way, because I recently did a video where I explained something myself, which was this Monty Hall sequel video.
Oh, the Monty Hall one,
Yeah,
yes.
where I sort of said, okay, I sort of took the ball by the horns a bit and said, okay, I've had all these other videos about it. I want to explain it how I would explain it to someone. So that for me was watching myself explain something in a way, watching is me trying to do what you do, and Henry does, and all you guys, but just being an explainer myself. And I found it interesting to see how I did do it differently, and I did do it quite slowly. I mean, I didn't, because hasn't got much information in it, my video, and it's just, let me say that again. Are you understanding? I want,
Yes. But the Monty Hall problem deserves that. It deserves a very slow walkthrough. I'll put the link in the show notes for people listening. It's just that problem with two goats in a car behind the doors and the host changes and all this. We talked about that a little bit beforehand, and that is one that really deserves a slow walk. I could never make a video about the Monty Hall problem quickly. It would just defeat the whole purpose of doing a video like that. No one would be able to follow it.
But I guess I like when I'm teaching someone something, and I'm told I'm quite annoying when I teach people things. So I'm probably not a good example, but I do like to emphasize things and say things twice and say, "Did you see that? Look, I'm going to show you that again." But these fast videos don't lend themselves to that, and that's where I kind of. Well, that's why I watch them twice. 2 views for you.
Yes, it's not really that I have hundreds of thousands of people watching my videos. I have tens of thousands of people watching them many times. Is probably what the case is.
I'm sure that's not the case, but anyway, let's go back to your video though, because there's a couple other things to talk about that have fallen out from it.
Mm-hmm.
We have to deal with, and as soon as it went up,
no.
everyone was waiting for us to talk about this on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You made a mistake.
Yes.
Let's. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, so in the video there is a section where I talk about in-laws, and I mistakenly used the phrase in-law prefix, or I say you add the in-law prefix to the title to get the full name.
Yeah.
And of course, you talk about a brother-in-law. It comes at the end. It's a suffix. It's not a prefix.
So for those who didn't even realise that mistake's in there, it's not like a structural mistake to the explanation here. It's just you were almost making a sort of an offhand, glib remark about this prefix when in fact you should have said it's a suffix. But it doesn't change the meaning of the video in any way. It's just a pedantic little point. But people notice.
Yeah,
I didn't notice. I didn't know. I watched it twice and didn't notice, and then I said, "I wonder how Gray's comments are going." And there were all these comments about it.
Every comment is on. Well, that's one of the things that's interesting. You just brought up an interesting point that I'd like to get on the record here. So very often, people will spot a comment like this, and then they'll say something to me like, "Why don't you just put up an annotation?" And instead of avoiding all of these comments, and for a video or for an error like that, I will never put up an annotation because it doesn't that error doesn't matter. There's nobody out there who's speaking English who is going to be writing or saying in-law brother as a result of my video.
Yeah.
No one's going to do that. No one's going to make that mistake. So I don't put up the annotation because my suspicion is that most people don't notice and it doesn't matter. And putting up the annotation then is it's a distraction from the video. It's the same reason why I ran that Supple campaign to get rid of the pop-up ads, because those pop-up ads come 12 seconds into the video, and it's such a distraction for a moment from I'm just watching this video. And I think any kind of annotation, you run that same risk, that the annotation is just for a moment, it diverts someone's attention. And since I think most people don't notice, I don't want to put something like that up to call attention to it. It has nothing to do with, I hope people think that I'm right about everything. And it just has more to do with that little element of distraction.
Yeah, just cluttering their viewing experience.
Yes, it's
no
clutter.
reason.
It's visual clutter.
Yeah.
And I actually, when my wife watched the video, I didn't say anything to her about it, and she didn't notice either.
When did you realise the mistake was there?
Oh, I knew it in the audio tracks. I had it.
You knew it when you were editing?
Yeah, this is part of the problem. Is I phrased it slightly differently in the slower audio track, and I phrased it in the slightly wrong way in the faster audio track. And I spent a good while trying to edit around this, but I knew it was there when it was uploaded, but I couldn't edit around it in a way that didn't suddenly have me talking really slowly, or where the edit point wasn't just so obvious and awkward. So I left it in. I knew it was there.
I'm amazed by that. I'm amazed you didn't fix it.
Well,
From what I know of you.
For me, this is a workflow issue, is going back and fixing something like that at that stage is not so easy. I've often wanted to do some research into professional voiceover people to know more about how they do their jobs, because I am really aware that I cannot record things at different times without them sounding incredibly different. So I had set up all my audio equipment. I had done the recording. I caught the error later. And I knew if I'm going to fix this, I have to redo the whole thing.
You couldn't redo the whole thing, or was it so cut to the sound that it would have just been a massive mess, I guess?
It was mainly an issue of I wanted to get it out by Wednesday at the latest, and I was doing the mental calculation of, okay, how long is it going to take for me to redo the audio and then recut it? And I figured, no, I'm not going to get it out on time. This is going to push it back just a little bit too much. I am willing to take the hit on this error and let it go. Which I just want to point out, Internet, I am not a perfectionist, and I think this is evidence for that fact. Like, I'm very happy to make cost-benefit decisions along these lines of is this error worth fixing? And in this case, I came down very clearly on the no side of it. It wasn't even a debate in my mind. I was like, I'm not redoing the whole audio just for this one little thing. But I knew that I was going to have to deal with everybody commenting on it, which they did. They did in spades. I got many emails and tweets and comments, and thank you everyone for pointing that out. I think it's the top comment on the Reddit discussion. Is that?
It hasn't swayed you though. It doesn't make you think, I should have just redone the audio. You know, it hasn't changed your mind. You stand by the decision.
No, I completely stand by the decision. I know that if I had done that, the video wouldn't be up now. I would rather have it up sooner than later.
Yeah.
Because it's also, for me, it's an issue of impacting the future things that I'm working on. Because I know full well that if I didn't get it up by this week, even though in theory maybe I'm only adding a couple hours to the actual workflow, the result would be I would end up spending more time on that video, because now I'm mentally thinking, well, it doesn't have to be up until the following Monday, and I would end up putting more detail into the animation. And so this was a just cut down on future workload decision, which I think was the correct decision. And I can't imagine there's anybody out there who thought, oh, this video was great, but that one error just killed it, and now I'm not going to share it on Facebook. So, I mean, you must do the same thing. There must be times when there are things in your videos that you know are inconsequential errors, and you leave them in. I mean, you're acting all shocked, but that must be the case.
It happened today.
Okay,
It happened
perfect.
to me today, and I knew it was a number 5 video went up today. About it's got the friends and strangers theorem, and it just has a. There was a moment where the guy called Simon, who's in the video, wrote a greater than sign, and it should have been a greater than or equals sign. And again, incorrect. It should have been greater than equals. It didn't change the meaning of what he did. He's 10,500 miles away, so we can't re-record it. And I noticed it, and then I discussed it with him, and he noticed it as well. And we just said, well, it doesn't change anything. Anyone who notices it, anyone who knows it's a mistake, understands what's going on well enough anyway. So it's the sort of person who points it out is the sort of person who's not going to be misled anyway because they're savvy enough. So I left it, but I did put a note in the video description saying at 5 minutes 15 we're aware it should have been a greater than equals, and when I uploaded it with that comment, so it was the top comment, it was the uploaded top comment. So anyone who looks at the comments will see it as the top comment. Still,
that doesn't. You're assuming people read. I've said many times. Those descriptions, you can fill the descriptions with nonsense. Nobody reads the description.
No. And I knew the description wouldn't matter, but I thought top comment would matter because I thought if you're going to write a comment, don't you just like if you're going to make your glasses joke on Twitter, 9 times out of 10 you're going to check that no one else has made the joke first.
No, you're so filled with the desire to correct somebody else, you just scroll past all that other stuff to the comment box.
No,
actually, is the comment box? The comment box is above the top comment, isn't it?
I'd be embarrassed. I'd be too embarrassed to write a comment on a YouTube video without first checking that there weren't a million other comments the same. But other people don't share this reservation.
Yeah, but then you have to spend time looking through the YouTube comment system, which is just a total train wreck.
Yes. I wouldn't look through all 1,000, but I'd look at the top one. And in this case, the top one deals exactly with the thing that they're commenting on. That's why I made sure it was the top comment. So anyway, it doesn't bother me. I knew it was going to happen. But in answer to your question, sometimes these things happen. My reason was more because of we couldn't redo it because the guy I filmed is in Australia now. But
and even I had to look at it. The place to leave a comment on YouTube is above the top comments, so someone could not even see the top comments when they're writing to correct you.
Yes, of course. Well, I certainly hope they're not saying it. I hope that's the case. I'd be even more disappointed if you're looking at the top comment, seeing a perfectly logical explanation, acknowledging the mistake and why it happened and why it hasn't been fixed, and then just blindly wrote, "You made this mistake." I hope they're not looking at it.
They want to really rub it in.
I've lost even more faith in humanity if they are seeing the comment and still writing that. But it is astonishing to me that people write these comments, and it just shows how much of internet commenting is just people talking into the void, doesn't it? Because all of these people who are writing comments expecting people to read them aren't even reading comments themselves.
Well,
I think they should take that as a lesson. That the only people reading the comments are you and me.
Yeah, this has been on our topic list for a while. Is to do a episode about comment forums. This is a particular hobby horse of mine. Now I shouldn't even mention it now because people are going to imagine the most perfect Hello Internet episode ever about that. But yes, I think that at least on YouTube is structurally set up so that you are yelling into the void. That obviously comments are not like that everywhere, but the structure of YouTube just makes it so that you are. I really have this mental image of opening a door to a room, and there's thousands of voices already in that room screaming, and then you just yell your comment in and close the door. That would be the real world equivalent of contributing to a YouTube discussion. It's just, why even bother? Sorry, YouTube engineers who work on the comment system. I know that I have met some of you. I know it might not necessarily be your fault, but that comment system is just a total disaster, and I'm never going to not harp on it.
Speaking of comments, I know the place that you do love comments is Reddit, and there has been some discussion in the wake of your family tree video, which was quite interesting, which is about the issue of your video prompted someone to think about the end of their family tree in terms of their name. Obviously there are certain configurations that will result in a male name not being passed on anymore, and the Grey name won't continue because I haven't had children and my brother hasn't. And this person was feeling quite sad about the idea that maybe their name was about to hit a dead end, their surname. And I think you were winding them up a bit. You will say you weren't, but your responses were very deliberately cold and robotic, saying, "Well, why do you care about your name? I don't get it."
Well,
you were winding them up a bit, but is this real? Do you really not understand why someone would be sad that their name would come to an end?
Okay, well, two things about this. Shall we see if I can find the exact comment? But first of all, I will genuinely say that I was not trying to wind them up. I know that you won't believe that. People on the internet might not believe that. but I really wasn't.
Okay.
And it is partly just a side effect of the day that video was released. I had only slept 2 hours. I was up all night animating it. I went to sleep very briefly and then got up and finished working on it in the morning and uploaded it. And even at my best, on video release days, I tend to be pretty brief in the comments, partly because there's just so many comments coming along that I can come across as quite curt, but I'm much less likely to write long comments on video release day. So I think that's partly why I come off as very brusque in that thread, but I'm not trying to wind the person up.
Okay.
But what we're about to discuss here is a particular example of something that I would say happens in my life quite a lot, which is someone will discuss with me something that they, I don't know how to put this, that they're maybe that they don't like some sort of problem, like this person saying, oh, it makes him sad to think about his family name dying out.
Mm-hmm.
So people will discuss with me something in their life that is making them sad. And I'm trying to convince them that the thing that's making them sad shouldn't make them sad in the first place. And then that generally just transitions them to sadness now mixed with anger, is usually the response that I get. And I can kind of understand why this happens, but I also genuinely find it sometimes kind of baffling and confusing. And
That's not how humans work, Gray. That's not how humans work.
This is the problem I have with the discussion. I would like you to try to explain to me now, why is it that, and not everybody, but some people are concerned with the notion that 100 years from now there are people who have their name descendant from them walking around the world. I don't understand.
Before we talk about that, let's talk to you about how humans work.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
All right.
Many times when people tell you their problems, they do not want you to solve their problems.
Why are they telling me their problems?
Because they want empathy. Because they want to share their problem. They want to unload it. They want another human to tell them things are okay. They don't want them to invalidate their feelings and tell them you're wrong to think that. Not only, like if your wife comes home from work and she's had a bad day. This is general advice. I'm not talking about your wife, because your wife's different, obviously, because she chose to marry you. But
right, yes, nicely done there.
Yeah. But generally, if your wife comes home from work and says, "I'm having these problems at work. I had a terrible day. My boss wasn't nice, or clients weren't nice, or something went wrong," and they don't want you to sit there and say, "Well, tomorrow this is your strategy. You've got to go into the room and tell the people this, and then you've got to report that, and you've got to fix this, and you've got to adjust." They don't want that. They just want you to put the arm around and make them a cup of tea and say, "Wow, you had a really rubbish day. I feel really sorry for you. Wow, life is tough, but I'm here and I care for you." They don't want you to sit. And likewise, when someone says, "I'm feeling a bit sad about my name coming to an end," I don't think they necessarily want a robot to reply to them and say, "Well, what you're feeling is completely irrational. There's no logic to it. You're wrong to feel sad. Your sadness is invalid, and this is why." That's not what humans want when they share their problems.
But if I could convince that guy that there was no reason to be sad about this, he would be better. He would be happier if he realized, oh, that is irrational to think. That's okay. This is not a problem anymore.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
I feel like this is not convincing to you.
No, of course. You know what you're saying. What if we were all computers? And I know.
I don't think this is. But I don't mind the robot joke. But I feel like this is a general. There have been cases in my life where I've been discussing problems with people. I'm almost always looking for feedback, and I'm very happy when people have some kind of solution. That's great. That's what and if I have a problem and someone has a solution, please share it. Don't put your arm around me and go, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you. I empathize with you. You know, I like if you have a solution to my problem. I would love to."
I've experienced this week. I've had this catastrophe with Well, hang on. I'm not going to say catastrophe because 2 weeks ago, as you know, there was a loss in my family and someone else has had this surgery. So there's been serious stuff going on. So I'm not going to describe computer problems as a catastrophe because they're not. But I've had substantial problems with my computer and hard drive, and it looks like I've lost a lot of data. Hopefully what needs to be backed up is backed up, but there was so much stuff that it wasn't even feasible to back some of this stuff up. I'm talking terabytes upon terabytes of archive, and it looks like it's gone. I've had a bit of a whinge on Twitter about it a couple of times, saying, oh dear. What I want is either I would like someone to say there is a solution, you can recover it, right? I would like that. But also, I don't mind people saying, oh, poor Brady, that's really bad, feeling for you, man. Hope you get your data back, I hope it works out. I don't want people telling me, this is what you should have done, or this is how you should back stuff up.
Listen.
Sometimes you just want a bit of an arm around you and wow, life is tough.
I have to interrupt you here for two things.
Go.
First of all, one, you told me about your computer problems, and I believe I have said many times, like, wow, that really sucks.
Yeah, you were great. Yeah, that's what you should always do. Yeah.
Now, can I tell you why I did it in those circumstances?
Why?
Because me telling you, oh, you should have backed up your data, that's just me being a jerk, right? That's like, oh, if you had a time machine, you could go back in time and back up. Yeah, great. But you know what? That's not where we are right now. Where we are is you've lost all this data, and you know what? The loss of data is tremendously sad. There's no recovering from that. It's gone forever. And me telling you what you should have done in the past is pointless. Totally pointless. Nothing to be done there. So I expressed a loss, like sadness over the loss.
Okay.
So I did. This is the right thing. This is not the situation that we're describing now, where somebody currently has a problem and there's a solution to that problem, and they don't want me to tell them the solution. They instead want me to go, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you." No, those are two totally different, unrelated.
I think they are different. I don't know about totally different. I think
completely different.
I think there are threads here. I think there are threads here and lessons that connect the two. But you're right. They are very different for the ways you explained.
Yes.
So let's come back to what you explained. I've had my say about how I think sometimes people should be dealt with when they express things that make them sad. Let's come to the actual facts of the matter.
Yes, and again, this is like problems.
Yeah.
Right. This person has they're talking about their family name dying out.
It's about to come to an end.
Nobody else to carry it on.
But I think it's a shame, and I completely empathise with what that guy's saying. And I think telling him that his name is just a construct of sounds and language attached to a lineage of fleshy, watery bodies that are reproducing over time on a rock around. No, but this is, I think. Okay, you tell me the rationale. You tell me why he shouldn't be sad.
Well, here again, we're touching upon a sensitive issue here, which are two different things. If somebody wants to have children and is unable to have children for whatever reason, that's a huge tragedy. That's just a very sad situation.
Yes, of course.
And it's why, if you want to talk about pet peeves, one of the pet peeves that I find totally unbelievable is that it is socially acceptable to ask a couple when they're going to have children. That infuriates me to no end, because it's like such a personal issue, and people have fertility problems, and there are couples who want to have children, and if they're trying to have children and not able to, that's such a huge sore spot. So the very notion that it is socially acceptable to ask people when they're going to have children, I cannot believe that people do this. I find that just infuriating.
Yeah.
I think it's so rude to do that. It's making me angry.
I'm on board with you there.
Yeah, so that is a totally different issue. That was not the conversation we're having.
No. That's far from the conversation we're having.
Yeah, so that's a very different issue. The idea is we're literally having a conversation of people talking about hundreds of years in the future, there's not going to be anyone who's descended from this person, or the name is going to die out. There was another sort of sub-thread about like he's like this guy has daughters who will have children presumably, but he's not going to have a son. He's not going to have a son to carry on the name.
Okay.
And I find that's just like I don't even understand what the person wants, right? And so there's a line here in the conversation where I'm trying to ask and get it clarified. I say, like, I don't understand why people care about the name in particular. And the response was, it has to do with tradition and legacy and family values. A name is not just a word, is the response.
It's a symbol.
It's a symbol, but surely traditions and legacies and family values, those have to do with the people, right? Like maybe your living daughters and their families, right? Like what is this? What does the name have to do with this thing at all? Like
Yeah, that's cool. Of course that's true, but it's still really sad if someone goes and if someone went and I was going to say the Vatican, I don't know if that's a bad example, but if someone goes and smashes down an old church, the church is the people, and the people could build a new building and still come together and have that community. But it's still sad that this 500-year-old building has gone because it was a symbol of what came before.
Also a terrible analogy. Like that's active destruction of something.
Okay. If it wasn't destructed, if it just fell down from old age, or it had to, there was, it went for natural reasons. A sinkhole opened up in the ground and it sank into the ground. Whatever the reasons. There's nothing wrong with symbols, and it's sad to see the end of. If you're watching a film of some ant walking across the desert and it gets to the other side of the desert, and then right at the very end of its journey, a rock falls on it and it gets squashed. Mm-hmm. You can say, oh well, it was just an ant, or oh well, there are other ants. But it's still sad when you've seen something go for a long time and carry on, come to an end. There's like an attachment.
You were giving me nothing but examples that I agree with, that I think are all irrelevant to this discussion about the family names. I like the death of a living creature. Yeah, I'm agreeing that's sad.
But now, what I'm saying is attach those emotions to the symbol that is a name, because that's what this person's doing.
I know that's what they're doing. I can't understand why. I mean, here's a
You understand symbolism. If this person who wrote that Reddit comment was taking the position that I don't care what happens to the rest of my family, and if they all have horrible diseases and end up in jail, I don't care as long as they have my name, I'm happy. If that was their position, then your analogy works, and I agree. And I'm saying, well, hey man, you're putting a bit too much emphasis on a name here, but I don't think that's what they're doing. I think they have got things in a bit of context. I think they're just a bit sad that a symbol that has been going for a very, very long time, because of a series of events and coincidences or happenings that you and I don't know about, that symbol's about to come to an end. And there's nothing wrong with mourning that loss and feeling a bit sad about it. And I'm not saying they should go and jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. That would be unreasonable. But I think it's perfectly valid to mourn the passing of an old tradition. But I'm like that. I like old traditions. I like old stuff. It is just a name, but it is a symbol, and it's a powerful symbol. It's not just a trinket. This isn't just a little Eiffel Tower souvenir.
Yeah,
name is a very powerful symbol, and therefore it's
but a rose
lost.
by any other name would smell as sweet, Brady.
Yeah, and I'm sure that person hopes that their descendants,
their daughters
go on to do great things, and their daughters' and daughters' sons and all those people. I hope that person is not, just completely, dissociating themselves from their family because the name's not continuing. But I still completely understand that little twinge of sadness. There's been this long line of that name for however long, and it's coming to an end. The world keeps spinning, but there's nothing wrong with being sad about it. I completely understand what that person's saying. I understand what you're saying too. This is you're pretty cold. You're pretty coldly rational about these things. You're not a sentimental dude. But
Because
there
I
are
think-
sentimental people there.
I don't know. I feel like I have a hard time understanding. I feel like I have a hard time understanding the position. I don't know.
You don't.
Something.
It's just a sentimental attachment to something that's been in the family for a very long time. That's about to not be in the family anymore. It's losing an old nice thing. And I know you don't like things. It's like if there was some watch that had been in the family for.
I was just about to use that as a counter example, because that is a case where I have no space in my heart for hand-me-downs in my own personal life, but I can intuitively understand why other people place value on objects that have been in the family. Like I can get that, you pass down your great grandmother's engagement ring.
And names are very, very powerful to us. CGP Grey, owner of CGP Grey YouTube channel. Names are powerful things that we are very attached to and are very much part of us. And I understand the sadness at losing one. What you're saying makes sense too, but you're not taking sentimentality into account enough. There's no right or wrong here.
Well, I mean, I still think I'm right.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
But
Well, that's because you are right, but you're also the other guy's right. That's the beauty of it.
Nah, you can't both be right. Nah, it's just I don't know. Like I said, I can understand the physical objects thing, even though I personally don't feel that. I can see why other people feel that. It's just the name thing. I don't know. It strikes me weird. It strikes me especially weird or not weird, but not understandable when somebody has a family. Like I think they already have children. It's just that by the conventions of the world that we live in, males pass along their names and they get married, and females don't. Like that. Like I said, I can totally understand if this is wrapped up in the question of, do you have children and will those children have children? That's completely understandable. But I have children, but they're not going to pass on the names. That makes me sad. Is I don't know. It feels weird.
This becomes about first world problems, relative type thing too, doesn't it? Like this person's complaining on Reddit, to you, who's got a good life.
It's already a terrible decision.
No, but everyone here, we're assuming, has a good life and everything's okay. If this guy was wandering around the plains of West Africa to people who were dying of starvation and asking for their sympathy because his name was coming to an end, I would say, well, hang on, buddy, it's not a big deal. But so of
I'm
course,
sure, but I'm sure he would recognize that as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
all the things that I worry about in my daily life.
Yeah.
I would not be worrying about them if my life was brighter.
And so likewise, comparing his mourning of a name to people who haven't got, progeny who would like to have progeny. Well, that's a different.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's a
Fair
different
enough.
discussion. And I don't think he would, and I don't think he or she is doing that either. But it's a good, fun discussion. It's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, it's a strange thing.
I mean, I don't think we'll ever have a podcast about this, but when I hear you talk about, the insignificance of names and things, it does make me wonder about what you think about, the deeper meaning of life and legacy and what we leave behind, and do we worry about that and what happens next?
Oh, come on, man. We've got 10 minutes before you have to go.
The thing with this new language. Sorry. Do you know what that noise was? I just dropped my little book of passwords. You ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Shredded. My birthday has passed, and I got a shredder. Not from Grey, because I just specifically told him not to get me a present. Although I do understand you were involved in some of the secret behind the scenes discussions about what shredder to get.
Yes, I was.
and you'll be happy to know it is a cross shredder.
Good.
Cross cutting. I've only had it running for an hour or two. And it hasn't really become part of my routine yet. I have to say, I love it.
Oh, good.
It's so satisfying.
Isn't it though?
Lovely. Like, it just fit. If there was like a theme park full of rides and they just had a shredder and like they gave you a piece of paper and said, do you want to just go ahead and shred bits of paper? I think I'd do 50 before I got sick of it and went and got a hot dog. I think it's brilliant. And I'm already, now I'm saying all these lovely things because it's a new toy and I'm really excited. And I'm probably it'll gather dust soon. But I do feel something really nice about it when I put something in there, that feeling that it's gone. It is very cleansing.
Yes.
Like no matter, I can't think about that anymore.
Yes, you've really gotten rid of it. What you have to do to make sure it becomes part of your daily routine is position it either directly next to or directly under your desk, basically within an arm's reach of wherever you're sitting. And then, like I said, just shred everything. Don't even think about it. Just put all paper in the shredder, and then it will become part of your life, and you will be a happier, more secure person.
Done.
Excellent. Oh, so good. I'm so happy for you.
Do you know what else I got for my birthday?
What else did you get?
A telescope.
Ooh.
Nice.
Okay, so like how big of a telescope are we talking about here?
No, don't ask me that because I don't know, and it's in the other room.
You need to tell me the lens size.
No, well there you go. You're already showing what an amateur you are. It's a mirror. It's a reflecting one, so it hasn't got a lens. I guess maybe it has got a lens in the eyepiece. It's a mirror one. It's quite a good one apparently. So I'll give you all the details when the box is in the same room as me, because no doubt it will stay in the box for forever. But I'm really excited to have it. It was a really lovely present. I'm very well looked after on my birthday. I'm a lucky man.
It sounds like it. Do you stargaze in your spare time? If you have spare time, do you get out the star charts or look for particular things in the sky?
I mean, I'm really into astronomy, and like, but I've never been particularly into the stargazing side of astronomy and looking at the constellations and there's Orion and things like that. I recently went on a trip to, well not that recently, a little while ago I went on a trip to Chile with a guy called Pete Lawrence, who's one of the best astrophotographers in the world. And I was going out every night with him and we were both just taking photos of the stars and he was giving me a few tips to try and make me better at it. And he'd be pointing things out saying, look to the left of Orion and that thing there's the tail of the great wombat of the sky and that's the great bird of the south and all these, things. And I actually said to him, not wanting to be rude, because, be pretty honest with him, I just said to him, I don't like that stuff. I think that belittles astronomy in a way to me. Up there are all of these incredible blazing stars and supernovas and things of sizes we can't comprehend, and all this stuff, they're so amazing. And when you talk about that, it blows your mind. But when you start describing that as the eye of the beetle and that's the arm of the angel of the south and all that, it makes it seem a bit silly.
See, it's funny. You might think that I would agree with you, but I don't. I'm 100% okay with the constellations because I don't think it's belittling. It's just that you need a frame of reference. I mean, basically, you're looking at a semi-random scattering of white dots against a black background.
Yes.
You like as a human, you need some way to group them and to arrange them. And I mean, the constellations are comically arbitrary, and so I have. They don't mean anything in and of themselves, but I'm perfectly fine with people talking about or using the constellations as anchor points to say to the left of Orion's belt.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
I see the utility of them, and when it was us two guys out there in the dark, and he was trying to help me find things, I see the purpose, and I'm not saying they should be abolished, but I just thought Pete was a bit more passionate about the constellations than he should have been, and I was like, yeah, okay. And he was like, isn't this wonderful? See that there? It's the lion of that, the dragon of this, and I'm like. But then he'd tell me, by the way, you know that star there, it would take a 747 plane, 4 million years to fly around it. Then my mind gets blown and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, tell me more of that stuff. And less about how that's the head of the bear.
Anyway. I'm perfectly fine with people being into that as long as they're aware of what it actually is. People don't think that the constellations are real. I used to do. Actually, I'll put it in the show notes. Can I remember off the top of my head? I used to use a program called, I think it's called Celestia. Oh man, this is embarrassing if I get it wrong. But well, I'll look it up later because otherwise I'll be typing for a while. But basically, it's a universe simulator program, and I used it a few times in some of my lessons when I was doing physics. And because when I would teach the kids, they were aware, usually through astrology, of the star signs in the sky, and they usually as kids do, they start from the perspective of it must mean something. People tell me about this thing, it must be real. But one of the things that you can do in Celestia, which I think is great, is you can put the kind of camera as though you are standing on Earth looking up at the night sky, and the program will connect the dots and it will draw all the constellations. So you can say, oh, okay, here's where they all are, da 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 da. But the thing that was great and it was a very successful mind blown situation was you can then start moving the camera away from Earth. So, but it keeps the lines connected in the constellations, and you can see as soon as you start leaving the solar system and heading away from the Earth at a very appreciable distances, you kind of forget that you're not actually looking at dots on the interior of a black sphere above your head. You're looking at things that are light years and light years further away or closer than each other, and so the constellation lines just become this big spiky mess very fast as soon as you pull the camera away from Earth. And it was always a very successful lesson, and I think was the best way to show that if you think Scorpio is a real thing, it isn't. It's just we've just connected lines.
It's all very three-dimensional up there.
Yeah, it's not a thing against the sky. So
Isaac Asimov dealt with that really nicely a few times in the Foundation series too, from memory, because that's set in this fictional galaxy where humans have spread throughout, so everyone has a different take on the constellations and what lines up with what. He uses it in a few clever ways. It did remind me, speaking of going to Chile with Pete, I don't know if you saw yesterday the big blast, the big explosion at ESO. It was a big supposedly big event for the day.
I missed it.
It's interesting, isn't it? It shows how when two people have sort of different Twitter feeds, because I obviously have this big astronomy event, this dominated my Twitter feed. It's like, how could anyone possibly not know this was going on? And they talk to you and you're like, what are you talking about?
I don't even know what you're talking about at all. So you need to give me something to Google. What am I looking at?
The European Southern Observatory yesterday did sort of their groundbreaking ceremony for the European Extremely Large Telescope. This is the EEOT, which is going to be the new super huge telescope built on top of this mountain in the Atacama Desert.
Is it a single telescope or a network?
It will be a single telescope, and it's like this ridiculous,
Oh, okay.
It's this, people comparing, making graphics comparing it in size to things like pyramids and football stadiums and things. It's ridiculous. So anyway, and I feel really attached to it because late last year I went up to this peak where they're building it, which was a real adventure, and we made a video about it for Deep Sky Videos, and we can link to it because it was really exciting to stand up there and say they're gonna blow the top of this mountain off because they need to flatten the top of the mountain to make it a platform rather than a peak. So anyway, the first blast was yesterday, and there was all this hype, and there was a live stream, and you could watch it, and I was super excited because I was like, oh wow, I stood on that peak, and now it's about to get blown off. So everyone was watching. I think there must have been 20,000 people watching the live stream, and I was looking at all the live comments, and people were getting frustrated during the speeches, going, "Hurry up and blow it up already! I'm here for the mountain." And then finally
Less
they did
talking,
the big,
more exploding.
yeah. It was filmed from quite a distance, so I guess they had a disadvantage. And I think we'll probably talk about the Kindle, the Amazon thing in a minute, about how if you build something up, you can only fail. So I think people were expecting, you know, some kind of Vesuvius type moment where, you know, the mountain blew to pieces.
Yeah, the whole thing explodes rather than taking off the top, which is what.
Seriously, taking off the top is also overstating the case somewhat. It really was a rather, and I love ESO and I love telescopes, but this was rather a damn squib.
Aww.
It really was just this little. It looked like a little puff of dust, tiny puff of dust at the top. Nothing changed. I'm sure a lot of rocks were loosened up, which is the purpose.
Right.
And it will make it easier for them to start. And they're going to do a lot more explosions. But seriously, it was the only thing that made it worth watching was watching all the live comments in the comment section when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
As people were outraged at the amount of time they'd given and spent waiting for this thing. And then I would say we'll link to the explosion in the show notes.
We
but
have to
I
now.
think-
You have to send me the link. I want to see this.
I think we would then be guilty of what it was rather disappointing. But do watch the video where I went up to the summit, which is really cool and explains what was going on up there. It was seriously, I can't tell you how excited I was to go there. It was it's an amazing place, and it's amazing what they're building there in an amazing location. It makes you really excited about the things humans do when you see that stuff for real.
Oh yeah, and it is really cool to be in a place where there is going to be something, and
Yeah.
then later on to see, oh, they're actually doing it now, or they're really building it, and it's
Yeah.
really becoming a thing. So that I can definitely understand the excitement of that.
Cool, man. What else is going on?
Well, I was gonna say, might as well, since it connects somewhat nicely, is do you want to talk briefly about the Amazon phone thing?
Yeah.
It's just I can't remember what it was that I said last time that I was hoping it would be like a personal robot or something. But it was interesting to see because Amazon, if you're listening to these episodes back to back now, we talked last time about Amazon pre-hyping some product that they were going to announce, and it came out a couple days ago. And I went to look and see, oh, what is this thing that Amazon released anyway? And it's it's like a phone. It's a boring phone, and
Isn't that, I mean, I haven't really looked into it, but isn't that a significant development if a company as big as Amazon brings out a phone? That seems like a big thing to me.
I'm not saying it isn't hard for Amazon to do. I'm not saying that that's an easy thing for any company to accomplish. But the question is, what is my level of interest in this? And the pre-video with everybody going, oh wow, it's so amazing. This thing is just great. You know, I use this every day. This is going to change the way I do everything. And it's like, oh, it's a phone. It's not going to change the way I do anything because I already have a phone. This isn't anything new. I mean, they have a couple of little gimmicky features that they try
Doesn't
to.
it do some 3D thing? Like if you tip it on ankles, you see things from all 3D? Oh, I haven't actually seen the thing. I don't know anything about it, but I thought it had some cool 3D.
Yeah. Imagine
feature.
a phone, and now you know what it is.
Okay.
That's
Is it good looking? Is it a nice looking object?
I mean, it looks like a rectangle, like every phone in the whole universe does. Yeah, it's not visually striking in any particular way, but it has its little gimmicks. One of which is the 3D view, which I mean, from a technical perspective, is kind of interesting. They put cameras on the front of the phone that watch your face, so that when you turn the phone, since it knows where your eyes are, it knows how to adjust an image on the screen so that it appears to be three-dimensional, even though it's actually not. Obviously, you still have two-dimensional surface. I mean, that's interesting, but I have a hard time imagining how that's going to be any kind of great feature that I would feel compelled to use. My favorite thing about this little phone, which I didn't even notice at first, and then I went, wait a minute, what was that thing? they have a physical button on the side of the phone, which is a buy stuff from Amazon button.
Cheeky.
So, you press the button, and basically, if the camera is looking at anything, it will be able to find that thing on Amazon and let you buy that thing just straight away. Which is
Oh man, that's going to be so much fun.
So it sounds like, oh, Amazon, I can see very much why you would want people to use this phone. Amazon is very good at getting things into your hands that allow you to buy more things from Amazon. But I think to elevate the buy stuff from Amazon to a physical button on the side of the phone is, I just thought it was really funny, and it makes it kind of really clear what they're up to with that phone. But yeah, it was interesting, and the one thing I was going to say is, even though I did make this joke last time about I was going to be a personal robot, there was something that I really wanted, and even though I was explaining this effect of, oh, they're just guaranteeing disappointment, I too found myself more disappointed than I expected I was going to be, even anticipating my own future disappointment. And there was an interesting little thing that happened. I showed the video to my wife because I wanted to tell her the joke about it's a video of people discovering that they have genitals, which was making its way around the internet. And so I showed her the thing, and she watches it, and immediately she says, "Oh, they have some kind of 3D thing." And this was a moment where I realized, I didn't, even though I hadn't exactly said it out loud, like, I knew in my mind what I wanted it to be, and because I already clearly in my mind had a thing that I wanted it to be, I ignored the...
God dang.
Since my wife didn't have any expectations, she was able to see that much more clearly.
Or she really wanted a 3D phone.
Or she really wanted a 3D phone. Who knows? When she comes back today, maybe she's going to be showing me the amazing Amazon phone and start pointing it at everything in the house so she can buy more of those things from Amazon.
Well, lucky there's nothing in your house then.
Yes.
Would you be disappointed if she bought the Amazon phone? Because I know your heart is a beating apple.
I mean, if she wanted to have an Amazon phone, I wouldn't be disappointed. I would be shocked and surprised. But no, I wouldn't be disappointed. I mean, I would just, like, if people love I'm not even sure if Amazon has a great ecosystem in the same way that Google or Apple does. But if there are people really into Amazon services and they want Amazon phones, go buy an Amazon phone. I guess that's good. But anyway, yeah. So more disappointed than I thought I was going to be, even though I was expecting to be disappointed, because all I really wanted was a new Kindle. So that's that.
What's wrong with the current Kindle?
I don't know. I mean, do you have a long amount of time? Everything is wrong with the current Kindle. Everything. But it's not wrong enough to stop me from using it, which makes me sad every day. So I don't know. This could be like a thing. Do you want to hear some of my complaints about my Kindle? You probably don't.
Well, I actually do. Go on, let's do it. I'm sure. I don't think there are going to be people listening saying, "Cut him off now. Let's crack on to the next inane piece of follow-up."
Yes, that's true.
I'm sure they'll be just as happy to hear this inane piece of follow-up.
I guess. Yeah, it's all equally inane. I said to you before we got started that I think we're getting worse at doing this show. The shows. Someone was kind enough to, let's see if I can find it, but to make a chart that showed the progress of the length of the episodes as a function of time, and ends up being a logarithmic function, meaning that it increased rapidly very quickly, and it still continues to increase, but at a decreasing rate. So whatever it is, predicted that 50 episodes from now the show would be 4 hours long, something like that.
Unless we start getting sick of it and we end up with some kind of Gaussian distribution and they start getting short towards the end.
Yes, you never know. But the thing that when I saw that graph, the thing that also struck me is you could plot on the same axes amount of time spent in preparation, right? And that would be a decreasing exponential, right? So it started off with an enormous amount of preparation for the first 3, and then it dropped very, very quickly until now it's very little preparation. And I think it's interesting that the less preparation there is, the longer the episodes are, which is like that old supposedly Abe Lincoln saying that, oh, I would have, if I had more time, I would have written you a shorter letter. I think that's what this stuff is. But
And
anyway,
you are speaking for yourself when it comes to preparation time. I have been incredibly consistent. in my
that's
lack of
true.
Preparation.
That is true. Right from the start, you have not prepared very much at all. So I guess this is really just, it's a function of my amount of preparation, which, yeah. Anyway.
Tell me 3 things you don't like about the Kindle.
Okay, 3 things. Okay, well. All right, I'm mainly talking about, I own a Kindle Paperwhite, which is the Kindle that has the little light up screen. And I wrote a far too long, far too obsessive review about it. It's on my website. I'll put it in the links.
I think I read that. I think it was a really fun read. If that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I remember that.
It seems you enjoy reading the things that I write in anger or frustration. This seems to be consistent with you. But anyway, if I have to pick, I'll pick one thing, which to me is unbelievable. I swear, if there's anybody who works at Amazon, I need to know if there's a reason you don't let this happen. Why can't I left align the text on my Kindle? Either on the Kindle Paperwhite, or in the Kindle for iPad, or on the Kindle for my Mac. Everywhere, the only choice I have is full justification. So, well, I'll paint a picture in words for people who don't know what I'm talking about. People who know what I'm talking about are already shaking their fists in sympathy rage. But in case
so you want to be allowed to have a raggedy right.
Yes, that's what, the ragged right. So basically, when you look at paragraphs on a Kindle, if you draw a line down the margin on the left, all the words match up with that line perfectly. And you have 2 options for what to do on the right hand side, because every sentence isn't composed of the exact same number of characters. And if you're in a house and you're the kind of person who still owns like books made of paper, if you open up a book made of paper,
you say that like they're this like really rare thing that maybe no one's ever heard of.
well, I mean, I guess you probably have a book made of paper right within your grasp now. Maybe do you? I don't know. Do you?
Well, I can't reach one from my seat, but if I stood up, I could grab a whole bunch of them. Yeah, I'm looking at a shelf full of them.
Okay, so if you look at your book made of paper, and I say that in particular because to contrast this to things you normally see on the web. If you open up one of those, what you'll see is most well typeset books will hyphenate the words on the edge. So basically, they make the right margin. It looks like it's a parallel line with the left margin. All the words come up to the edge. But what they do is they break longer words with a little hyphen so it continues on the next line. And
that's pretty rare though, because they're pretty good at typesetting them, so that doesn't happen too often. But yeah, but I'll do that in an emergency. Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at a book and it's even on the one side, you will see the hyphenation, and that's how they keep it relatively even.
Yeah.
And yes, that is rare for a whole variety of reasons. You don't want to do that if you don't have to, but there are computer programs that do it. And I used to write all of my documents in it's not exactly a programming language, but a markup language called LaTeX, and that's a computer, I'll say program just for simplicity, but it's for writing up beautiful looking documents, and it will automatically do the whole hyphenate the words on the right side so it looks nice and pretty.
Yeah.
Now, if you can't do that algorithmically with a computer, I don't know why. Maybe there's some patent issue, but let's just say for some reason Amazon can't do that. I don't know why, but let's just say. The next best solution is to have a ragged right edge, which means make the spaces the same size between the words. And but what Amazon does is they do full justification, which means if you own a Kindle and you open up to any page of any book you're reading and you look at the text, you will see that on every line the spaces are different widths.
Yeah, as they stretch and squash to make sure they all stop
Yes.
it, they all fit perfectly. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
with you. And it's really upsets you.
Here's the thing.
It does sometimes look clumsy, I'll give you that.
It is not even just that it sometimes looks clumsy. Maybe I'm just particularly sensitive to this. I have a much harder time reading stuff like this where the spaces are uneven. And on occasion when I go back and I'll read, I have a few books that are in Apple's iBooks instead of Kindle. And so sometimes I'll have to read something on iBook because it wasn't available in Kindle or whatever. And I'll be reading something and I'll realize, 30 minutes into reading that it's so much less of a strain, and I think, oh, I wonder why that is. It's like, oh, right, because Apple does the right edge thing, right? They don't fully justify the words. It's a smoother reading experience. It's so much nicer. Or the occasional other things that I read, if they do the ragged right, it's much easier. Maybe I'm just unusually sensitive to this, but the thing that kills me about it is this, like, I'm not asking for the moon and the stars here, Amazon. I'm not asking for a Kindle that can also do my dishes, right? I'm just asking for a typesetting option that has been around since the dawn of time. This is not like a big deal.
Even the cavemen were using hyphens.
Yeah, I'm sure they were, right? Like you have to wrap the picture around to the next line of the antelope. You don't do uneven spreading on the walls. You want to make it look nice.
Yeah.
It's just
okay, man. Alright. I know someone who's in the computer file videos who's a real expert on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna talk to him and see if we can do a video on it just for you. Maybe there's a reason.
Honest to God, I would feel better if there was a reason. I would, because this and it does. Here's the, I do have a little philosophy that I try to keep in mind, which is whenever you are observing an entity from the outside and they are apparently engaged in crazy or irrational behavior, it's rarely because the entity is actually irrational. It's usually because you are lacking some information about the internal mechanisms of what's going on. And I found this again and again in my life, where you look at something and you think, why on earth does it work like that? And then if you're able to get insider access, you realize, oh, okay, from the people on the inside, from their perspective, this is a totally sensible thing. I hope there is some reason like that with Amazon, because otherwise they're doing it to torment me. And I cannot tell you, I have spent many hours debating about whether or not I should switch over to the Apple ecosystem to go with iBooks, and it causes me agony just even trying to make this decision. But
Wow.
I really love having the Kindle as a not iPad for reading on. It doesn't have distractions. I can't go, ooh, I wonder if somebody said something funny on Twitter. No, I'm just there with a book basically, and I don't have any other options. So I really love it for that, and that's the only reason I'm staying. But I have my Kindle set up in this crazy way to try to minimize the word spacing problem. I do the whole thing in landscape mode. I've shrunk down the text size so it's like too small really for comfort, but I'll take that trade-off if I have to.
Okay.
It angers me to no end.
No?
You know what? I have a whole bunch of other things that drive me crazy. I'll just reel them off because it doesn't even matter. Now, I mean, that's the main thing, but they have folders that are collections of books. So I would think, oh, this is great. I can organize my books into little folders called things to read, things that I have read, reference, future projects. Oh, isn't this nice? No, it's not nice because they don't synchronize across any of your devices. So if I pick up my iPad, it's totally different. And they have some bizarro import function which will synchronize it, but only once, and you have to do it manually. The heck with you, collections. I don't even use you. You're worthless.
Wow.
If I'm terrified to tap on any footnotes in books, which are something you can imagine I might want to do often. Oh, where does this information come from? Let me tap on this footnote. Oh, if you do it wrong, then it thinks you finished the book. Oh, look, you're at the end of the book. You must have finished reading this book. Isn't that great for you? Can I go
Would
back?
you like to buy another book?
Yeah, honest to God, it does that sometimes, right? Well, that's actually something that will bother me. I'll mention in a second. But yeah, so I'm at the footnotes at the end, and you go like, oh, let me tap to go back. 8 out of 10 times it works, 2 out of 10 times it doesn't, which makes you never want to tap it because you lose your place. And then I have to try to like, okay, I have to put a bookmark in here, and they've made the bookmark process more clumsy on the Paperwhite. Now it's like a 3-tap process to put a bookmark, so I can go look at the footnote, and it's just And one last thing is, I'll just say, why can't I have a scrolling view? So like a web page where you can scroll up and down, because I do lots of highlights in my books, tons of highlights for future videos and future reference. Yeah. If I want to go back and look at those highlights, and I'm going through them, the Kindle jumps to the highlight, but it puts the highlight at the top of the screen. So usually you highlight something that's in the middle of the paragraph, right? So I would like to see what's just a little above the highlight, but I can't just scroll down. I have to go to the whole previous page. This is on my Mac, on my iPad, on anything. I can't just look up a little bit. All these things I can do in iBooks totally reasonably. And yes, it does actually bother me to no end that the instant, and I mean the instant, you get to the last page of any Kindle book, it pulls up a big page that says, read this book and buy another book. And I feel like, F you, Kindle, give me a second to have that, I just finished the book here. Wow, that was a great experience reading through this Lord of the Rings trilogy. Hey, do you want to buy, A Story of Fire and Ice by, just give me a second. Just give me a second. I'll buy more books.
You could be in tears at that point, at the emotional end of the book you just read.
Yeah. Or even just that experience of, I've come to the end of a book. I'm going to now just think about it for a minute. Think about this experience that I've just had. Nope. Rate it right now. Quantify your experience. 1 to 5 stars. And it's just, even if it would just give me 5 seconds, just a 5-second delay, and I would hate it so much less. Sorry.
Someone's got their emotion chip in today.
Man, it's just this. I come across this with so many products where here's the thing, Brady. There's nothing better. Right? This is the best ebook reading solution that exists. So that's why I'm chained to all of these things that I hate, because there is no alternative, and it's like. I have a number of these kind of products in my life. One day we will talk about iPad style eye, and then I will also complain for a long time, but not today.
Okay.
But it's just, it's all of these things. It feels like, everything's running along smoothly. Like the gears in my head, they're turning nice and smooth, and then something like, that everything grinds to a halt because there's some little problem with the thing that I'm using, and there's nothing I can do. I just have to keep using it, and I have to keep waiting. I'm upset. I have to have some coffee now. Hello, Internet. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, or online store. Squarespace has been around for 10 years, and they're consistently improving their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. Squarespace is so easy to use with simple drag-and-drop tools, but if you need help, Squarespace has an amazing support team that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's a completely redesigned customer help site for easier access to self-help articles and video workshops. Plus, the new Squarespace Metric app for iPhone and iPad allows you to check site stats like page views and unique visitors and social media follows. With the blog app, you can make text updates, tap and drag images to change layouts, and monitor comments on the go. I just recommended to an associate the other day Squarespace because it really is the no-brainer, obvious, easy, simple, beautiful option if you just want to have a website that works. So really, if you're listening to me now and you've ever thought about starting a website and you have some idea for what you want, just go to Squarespace, and within minutes you'll have something that looks great. So Squarespace is good for everyone. Whether you need a simple website solution or you're a developer and want to get into the code, there are so many options, and it starts at just $8 a month and includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. So when you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use the offer code HelloInternet, all one word, to get 10% off and show your support for this show. We thank Squarespace for their support. Squarespace, everything you need to create an exceptional website.
Do you know, I never wanted a Kindle. I actually said I didn't want one, but I was given one for Christmas. Do you want to know what I think about it?
What do you think about it?
Pretty good. Pleasantly surprised. Pleased with it.
I figured you would. Do you have the
Yeah.
Paperwhite, or is it one of the other ones?
Oh, I don't know what they are.
Does the screen light up?
I don't think so.
Does it have a
no.
keyboard on it?
I don't.
This is very frustrating. Does it have a little? Is there a little square button on the bottom? I can't believe I have to. I feel like I'm on tech support with my mother or something. Like, can you describe the physical thing to me? What are you looking?
Yeah, it's a grey rectangle, to quote you on the Amazon phone.
But at least I don't use the Amazon phone. You use the Kindle. What Kindle? Forget it.
I think
whatever.
it's a pretty basic one.
But there's no keyboard. It probably has a little square button on the bottom. Are there page turny buttons on the side? Are there page turny
I
buttons?
don't. I think I touched the screen to turn the button to turn the page.
Okay.
I don't know. I just turn it on and read my book.
Okay.
I'm like-
I just wanted to know what it was. All right, never mind.
I don't know. I never know what products I have when it comes to that. Is it the X5000 deluxe?
I honestly, I wish I could be like you in this. I wish I could just pick up my Kindle and be pretty happy with it. But instead it's like torture. And I like to read.
Tell you what.
What?
You should try some of those paper book things. They're really nice for that.
No.
You can look at your note. You can get a good overview of your notes.
No, paper books are worse.
Justifications, lovely.
You cannot even try to convince. There's a reason I don't use paper books, and it's because they are a much worse reading experience, in every way.
In every way.
Every way except the justification.
What about the tactile experience?
That is worse.
What about them as just little cultural objects of loveliness?
I mean, you're just poking me with the stick, is what you're doing with a question like that. You know what you're up to there. Now, the book. They're
Books are beautiful. You've been in libraries.
No,
They're beautiful things.
Don't try to pin me down here to a thing I didn't say. I love libraries. I'm very happy libraries
Okay,
exist.
you
I'm
realise
happy to
libraries,
work in libraries.
are mainly comprised of lots of books.
Yes, but
Do you like how libraries look? That's my question. Do you
Oh,
like
yeah.
how libraries look? All
Oh,
those
yeah.
shelves of books.
I do. I think
Okay.
there's a real this is a local London tragedy, but in the I don't know if you ever saw it, but in the British Museum, for those who have ever been, it is a beautiful museum. You walk in and they have this kind of indoor, amazing white area with this glass skylight above the top, and in the center there's this cylindrical room. Do you know what I'm talking about off the top of your head, Brady?
I don't know.
No, okay. I'll put a picture in the show notes. Actually, let me just find something for you quickly, because I just want you to see this. Oh, look at that! Wikipedia, always to the rescue. This will be fun to edit later.
I'm clicking on it now. Oh yeah, that's
Okay.
nice looking. Yeah, what a
Right.
lovely space.
Have you ever been there?
Now I look at that, I think I have. I'm not sure. I don't know.
Well, if anybody ever comes to visit London, the British Museum has got to be pretty high up on the list of things to see.
Mm.
Now, what I think is a total tragedy is that, well, tragedy is not quite the right word. I understand why it happened, but that central column in the middle of the British Museum, it used to be a library. Technically, it was a reading room. So I'm going to send you another picture of what it used to look like on the inside, which I
Okay.
would put as one of the most gorgeous libraries I have ever seen in my entire
Oh, yeah.
life.
That's very nice. Yeah.
So if for the listeners, if you're driving in the car somewhere, I will just briefly describe it to you. Imagine if you're standing inside a cylindrical building, and all around the walls on the outside, nothing but books, and it's underneath just a huge, beautiful dome with windows all around the top. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous library.
Mm.
But now, if you go to the British Museum, that area is a rotating, it's like a rotating exhibit. So the British Museum will always have something special on. They'll have, you know how museums, they trade exhibits with each other. So
Yeah.
if there's a temporary exhibit, it will always be where the library was. And that's the part of the museum that they do charge you access to see whatever the special exhibit is. Now, I'm totally fine with that business model. 99% of the British Museum is free. It's great. I'm glad people can just walk in. I understand that they need to pay their bills somehow. So if the library had to go to support the museum, I'm assuming that's the reason. Okay, I understand. But still, that library was just beautiful. And I have been to many beautiful libraries around the world. I think if I'm going to pick one in America, anybody listening in Salt Lake City, your library is just beautiful. I absolutely adore the Salt Lake City Library. It's just the best. So libraries are great. So don't try to get me to be anti-library. But if you're trying to get me to buy some book made of paper instead of buying a book electronically, you're never going to win this argument. I used to buy lots of books, but as soon as electronic books were available, I thought, oh, this is much better in every possible way. I can search the text, I can have all my highlights, I can search through all of my highlights on all of my books at any time that I ever want. I can just look up a word immediately if I don't understand what it means. This is just the best. So
I don't agree with you. I don't think I agree with you.
I assumed that you wouldn't. Convince me.
I mean,
convince
and
me.
don't get me wrong. Since I got my Kindle, I have also. I've pretty much stopped buying books. And any time I'm in a bookshop, I look at the price of the book and I think, well, I can't justify that. I could just get it cheaper on my Kindle and get the same information. So
but
it
not
has
much
changed
cheaper, though.
it has changed my behaviour, and I do see the merit of electronic books for the reasons you say, searchability, and also it's a lot easier to take your Kindle on a plane than 4 or 5 books. But I do think there's something special about books, and if there was a book I loved, I would buy the paper version, even if I read it on my Kindle, just to have it. It's almost like it's as it was intended. I mean, I can look at a picture of the Mona Lisa on Wikipedia, or I can look at it in the Louvre, right? And when you're looking at the real thing and it's how the artist intended it, and I know when you read a book you're not reading the original manuscript as written by the author, but there's a context and an experience that the book's intended for, and I think still when people are writing books they want you to read it from a book, don't they? I don't know.
I don't know. It's funny. A lot of or I shouldn't say a lot, but I would say enough of the books that I have read are published in ebook format only. Then the intended experience is a Kindle.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the age of the author. I would assume that younger authors are more comfortable with the notion of electronic only books. But I mean, again,
We're never going to agree here because I like objects and you don't. But also books are like little trophies, aren't they? They're like sitting on your shelf there. I don't mean they're trophies as in you deserve a medal for having finished a book. Well done you. But they're kind of like this sort of reflection of who you are and what you like and what you believe and what you don't believe and what they're like. I don't know, going into someone's house and looking at the books on their bookshelf is a nice thing, and putting books on your bookshelf is a nice thing. As we say all this, I'm looking at the books on my shelf, and I don't know, it reflects me in a nice way. I think they do that nicely and in a way that a Kindle doesn't. And of course you don't. Of course we won't agree on this because of course we won't agree because we have this different attitude to objects and decoration and that. But I think they serve that purpose too.
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to, if I was the kind of person who would decorate my house, I mean, let's say I just, I was living 100 years ago. No doubt I would be the kind of person who would just have a house filled with books.
Yeah.
It's just this is the constraint of the time, and I would never feel like, oh, all these books are gross. I wouldn't have that feeling. And I know that because when I was younger and before there were ebooks in any sense, I had a lot of books. One of the things that is almost unbelievable to me now is when I first moved from New York to London. I happened to look at the pictures of me packing a little while ago. And what I could not believe is one of my suitcases was half filled with books.
Yeah.
And I look at that now, and it's like, who was that person who packed such heavy objects in his suitcase just to start with, and who also brought books? And it was just very interesting to see that, and to see how you change over time in these ways that you become a very different person. And so yeah, I can understand the appreciation of books. I'm at a stage in my life now where I feel like I much rather have the electronic version of the book than the physical book. But I can understand the notion of if you're going to decorate your house, having the books that you've read visible to people.
Do you enjoy books? Do you enjoy bookstores? They're like my favourite shops to go into.
Oh, I'll always wander around a bookstore. Yeah, of course. Because I mean, it's partly because no matter how much Amazon might try, there is no replicating just wandering around and kind of seeing what catches your eye, and discovering randomly books that way. You just can't replicate that experience, no matter how good your recommendation algorithm is.
But you don't enjoy that experience enough to sustain it by buying books.
Oh no, I'm not. I mean, no, I'm not.
Would you rather see all physical bookshops closed, or would you give some money for them still to be printed on paper, just for the maintenance of that experience? Because eventually they'll go, won't they? I mean, the printed books will go.
Yeah, this is an interesting question, but I mean, I guess my behavior clearly shows which way it goes. I am a total leech to bookstores. I go in, I look around, and if I see a book, I'll think, I'll make a note in my iPhone and I will buy it later.
Yeah, I've turned into that too. It's terrible.
I feel conflicted here. I don't think. Oh God, bookstore owners listening right now. Now I feel suddenly careful in choosing my words. I don't think that is terrible. That just is a thing that is. There isn't a value judgment there. If like technology and economics change over time so that certain things are no longer adequately viable, and I think in the not too distant future, the notion of independent bookstores in particular, but just bookstores in general, I mean they're clearly on the way out.
Yeah.
Although I don't think they'll ever be completely gone, because I think there will always be people who do like physical books, and what happens is, as the number of bookstores diminishes, the business necessarily has to go to a smaller number of bookstores that collect this kind of distributed revenue. So I think there will always be some, but it won't be like, I mean, when I was a kid and you would go to a bookstore and there were bookstores everywhere because that's where you got books, so you could expose yourself to the wider world. That's just that model of the way things work just doesn't exist anymore. So sorry.
Well, speaking of books, something actually both of us forgot to put in follow-up, and I didn't think you'd forget, because I thought you were really looking forward to it, was our ad from the last...
Oh!
Yeah, look, I'm serving myself up on a plate to you here.
I wasn't even going to mention it. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let it slide. I'm not going to say...
I'm happy to discuss it. Enough people mentioned it for it to be worth the nod.
Okay, I guess for those who didn't notice, in Brady's previous ad for Audible,
which he did very hastily as a favour to his friend CGP Grey.
Okay, sure. Well, it was hasty. That's true. You mentioned a book, The Jungle, by Upton Sinclair.
Upton Sinclair, I know.
But I thought this was a kind of little interesting moment, because I found this to be hilarious, because this book must be on every required reading list for almost every high school kid in America. And when you said, "Oh, I don't," it was especially funny because you're recommending it. And do you know what the book is about now?
I haven't looked a lot into it. We should clarify, the reason I recommended that book was because a viewer had contacted us. Not a viewer, I always call our listeners viewers. It shows this is a YouTube thing, isn't it? A listener had recommended it because he had been listening to it and the word freebooting was used.
Mhm.
And so it's a bit of a joke in the ad. I said,
Yeah.
haha, isn't it funny, this book's got freebooting in it? And then I said, I don't personally know if, I can't vouch for the book, basically, is what I said, because I don't know it, but I'm recommending it. So I wasn't recommending it to kind of, to be pretentious and think how, great I am. I was recommending it because of this jokey reason. And I said, I personally don't know the book. You found that very funny, of course, because the book is very famous in some circles,
Well,
in most circles. But there you go.
Yeah. So this is. I just thought it was a funny little thing, because what I also liked about this moment is, and we sort of talked about it on Instant Messenger, because you wanted to redo the ad, and I refused. I said no.
I said, do I need to redo it? Like, is it so bad? Is it such a big problem that I need to redo it? Because I don't want to, make us look too bad. But
Okay.
but once you explained, I was quite happy for you to use the ad. I have since been doing a bit of research. I mentioned I went to a bookstore the other day. I asked them if they had that book, because I was going to buy it if they did. They did not. And then I asked all the staff there if they had heard of the book, and one had, and all the rest of the staff in the shop had not. And I've asked numerous other people in my, not Americans, I've asked numerous non-Americans, have they heard of the book? And I'm yet to find a friend who had heard of it.
Yes, that's what I was starting to say. Is I think it's interesting. And someday we'll talk about being expats and living abroad. And this was just a little funny moment, because it made me realize how I thought, even when you've lived abroad forever, you always end up having these kind of cultural assumptions that every once in a while just get brushed the wrong way. And we were talking on Instant Messenger, I realized later, well, of course, there's no reason anyone who's not American would read this book. This book is particularly related to the horrors of the meatpacking industry at the turn of the last century, and I can't conceive of a reason why it would be in anybody else's school curriculum. And so I just thought that was funny. But I did think it was hilarious when I first heard the ad, and I was talking to my dad on Father's Day, and he did bring it up. He said, "Did Brady say Uptown Sinclair? Did he really not know what the jungle was?"
I mean, I definitely didn't know what the jungle was, but saying Uptown was also sloppiness, because the person who tweeted it, I think, got auto-corrected. So it was actually misspelled in the tweet, and I just took it from the tweet and said, they've recommended this book by this person, and I didn't. But that's pure sloppiness on my behalf, because I was, I should have looked up what the book was about, and immediately I would have seen how it was spelled and not.
You were under great pressure to do a favor for a friend very quickly, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, maybe saying I was under the pressure is maybe overstating the case. There was also a high degree of sloppiness. I will probably read the book at some point, just now, because I'm curious now.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Is it a good book? I mean, obviously it's an important book. Is it a good read?
I mean, is almost anything on the required reading list in schools a good read? I think those are a lot of important books, not a lot of good books, especially when you're 16 years old.
I mean, when I was 16, though, one of my required books in Australia was To Kill a Mockingbird. So there's obviously some,
Did you like that?
That was a long time ago. Yeah, I remember liking it. Yeah, I did like it.
I just remember being bored. That's my recollection of most of the books that I was required to read in high school was, this is really boring. This is terribly boring.
It was quite worthy, but it was good. It's been, gosh, it was so long ago now. I don't even remember. Anyway,
so
I am suitably embarrassed. I hadn't heard of the book. I'm sorry. What else have we got here in the follow-up? You've written something about my typing in the follow-up. Are you going to have another swipe at me?
I will only swipe at you if you are serving yourself up to be swiped.
Go ahead.
Quite many of these.
No, go ahead.
I just thought
I gave you a hard time at the end of the last one about not understanding humans, so it's my turn to take a slapping.
That's fine. No, I thought there was a funny. You mentioned on the last show that Brady can be used to mean slow, and somebody in the Reddit comments left a comment that I thought was pure gold, which is that they suggested that Hunt and Peck typing be renamed Brady typing, and I thought this was just the greatest suggestion I have ever heard. this, I know we're always pushing words on this show. I want Brady typing to be a thing.
Oh, don't you get behind it, because all your fans really love you, and they'll make it a thing.
Good.
There'll be a Wikipedia page about it before the show's over.
Yes, there will be. Excellent. Brady typing. I don't know. That just really tickles me. The notion of Brady typing. Hunt and Peck typing is descriptive. Brady typing is hilarious.
Well, I'm not gonna go with you pushing it, but I did see that comment on the Reddit. It was clever. It was well put together. And
thank you to whoever commented that. You really made my day.
And now let us never speak of it again. What was the fallout from my paper cut in the last episode about this humbled, honoured thing? Did you think any more about this? Did you?
Oh yeah. So I thought about this a lot, and
should we give any context for our legion of new listeners who have just tuned in for the first time to Hello Internet?
Yes. Do you want to give them the back? You're better at this than I am.
Very quickly, my paper cut last week that annoys me is when people who are saying something that could be perhaps described as boastful will say that they were humbled by something. Mm-hmm. So if I was to say I won a Nobel Prize, I would then say, I won the Nobel Prize yesterday, and I must say I found it a humbling experience. Mm-hmm. And it I think it puts a false modesty on things, and I don't think it's a proper use of the word humbled.
Yes. So all I was going to say is I was thinking about this a bunch, and we happened to independently hit on the same thing. You sent me something minutes after I had added it to the show notes for us, which is, I think the word these people should be using is honored. You feel honored to be the receiver of something, or you're like last week I was trying to imagine you're standing in a soccer stadium and all these people are cheering you, and you're reaching for a word, and I can see why people reach for humbled, but I think the word really should be honored.
I don't agree with you on this.
Really?
I agree with you that is the correct word to use, and the sentence makes sense when that word is used.
I thought you did.
No, I don't. I agree with you that would be a correct thing to say, and if someone said that, and many people do say that, and it just passes over me, and I think, no, that's good of you to say. But I think when people say humbled, maybe I'm being too hard on them, but I think they are trying to. I think they're trying to cover their back a bit and not want to sound like they're boasting. So I think they are saying humbled just to cancel out the boast. Whereas if you said you're honoured, you're not cancelling out the boast. You're just being polite and.
But that's just dumb, because in all the scenarios that we're talking about, there's scenarios in which it's impossible to not recognize your achievement. We're talking about sportsmen, Nobel Prize winners.
Yeah, there was a guy. Actually, the day after the podcast went out, the knighthoods were announced for the June honours here in the UK, and one guy got knighted, very deservedly, I'm sure. And he put out a tweet saying, "I'm humbled to have received this knighthood."
That's exactly right. You should be honored to receive this knighthood.
I agree that's the correct word, but I think maybe in some cases it is just a mangling of the language and a mistake. But I think sometimes people are saying it in a kind of false modesty. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm being too judgmental.
If it is false modesty, I don't go along with that. You should use the word honored. False modesty is it's no good. It's like the humble brag. It's the same kind of thing. It's worse than just saying nothing. I'm trying to think of a good example of a humble brag off the top of my head, but
I don't know what you mean by that. Humble.
You don't know what I'm. Oh, now I have to look. Okay. Because this is humble brags.
Is that something from the jungle or something that I'm unfamiliar with?
No.
Uptown Sinclair and his clever use of words.
Let's. Oh, okay. So, I just go to Urban Dictionary. They're always good at that. Humble brag: subtly letting others know how fantastic your life is, while undercutting it with a bit of self-effacing humor.
Yeah.
And so,
What's an example?
the example on Urban Dictionary is, I just ate my 15th piece of free chocolate while flying first class. If I don't stop this, they're going to cancel my modeling contract. LOL. That's a humble brag.
Yeah.
So I think using humbled in a situation where you should be using honored is like a humble brag.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Let's see this.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes. Oh, there's a humble
It even
brag.
has the word humble in it. Yeah. Oh, that's good. If anyone wants to put their best possible humble brag into the
Yes.
Reddit, that would amuse me incredibly.
Yes.
So let's have a humble brag thread on there.
Hello Internet is also sponsored by Audible.com, a leading provider of spoken audio information and entertainment. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Here in the Audible section of the podcast, I get to recommend to you a book that you should check out, and I recently just finished reading Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday, which I highly recommend. It touches on a topic which is near and dear to my heart, which is how terrible the news media is, and unlike some other books we've discussed before, Ryan Holiday's book comes at it from a very different perspective because it's basically his job to manipulate the media on behalf of his clients. And he's a very interesting guy. At age 21, when I didn't know anything about the whole wide world, he was already in charge of marketing at American Apparel. So it's a really great insider look at how, from a company's perspective or how, from an individual's perspective, the news media has these particular rules and scripts that they want to follow, and if you know how they work, you can manipulate the media to your own ends. And he starts mainly by talking about just getting ads for American Apparel covered without having to pay for them, but it does transition up into things like how do you sell a war through the news media. So I really, really recommend it. It's Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday, and you can find it at audible.com. So if you want to listen to it, Audible has it with over 150,000 titles in virtually every genre. You're going to find what you're looking for, and you can listen to a free audiobook like Trust Me, I'm Lying, and get a 30-day free trial by signing up today at audible.com/hellointernet. And remember, that /hellointernet is the part that gets you a free trial and tells Audible that you came from our show, which helps keep the show free to listen to. So again, that's audible.com/hellointernet to get your free book, and thanks to Audible for supporting the show.
The one last thing I wanted to mention, and I don't really know if it counts as follow-up or catch-up or what it counts as.
I think this is the show now. I mean, we've been doing this for an hour.
Yeah.
We don't have any topic planned.
No.
I think this is the show.
Alright. I wanted to sort of, I guess I'm kind of advertising something, but it's something that...
Are you about to humble brag?
No, I'm not going to humble brag. Have you... A friend of ours, who we've met numerous times, Logan Smoley's his name, and he works at TED Ed, who make fabulous educational videos for anyone who has never seen them. But Logan's had a bit of a side project on the go, which he launched just recently, and I don't know if you've come across it or not, because Logan is such a humble guy.
Well, yeah, he is.
Yeah, he probably hasn't spoken to you about it yet, but I knew a bit about it because we talked about it a lot when I saw him recently. So it's called Call Me Ishmael. So we're keeping the book theme going as well. So it's very appropriate for this episode. He's launched this website called Call Me Ishmael.
Is it callmeishmael.com or?
I think he's got the .com. I don't know. It should be. You can have a look. It's a really clever idea, and I'll try to explain it in a nutshell. Basically, he set up a phone number that you can ring and leave an answer phone message, and the message you're supposed to leave is I wouldn't say a review, but it's just a short discussion or a short little talk that you give about a book you really love for whatever reason. It may have changed your life or affected you in some way, or you just have something to say about that book. And then he then takes these recordings and transcribes them, and at the moment they're being posted as little YouTube videos. But it's really interesting, you're just hearing anonymous people call up this voicemail and leave a message about a book, and they're very captivating. It's a very clever idea. He's executed it very nicely in every different way on the website and the videos and that.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it got off to a modest but nice start. I gave a bit of a shout out on Twitter, which Logan was really grateful for, and I felt like I was doing my bit and making no impact whatsoever. John Green then tweeted it.
Oh, wow.
And poor old Logan, I think, got 300 messages in 5 minutes.
Well, John has 700 million followers on Twitter, I think is the exact number.
Many of whom have a great interest in books. So it was a perfect storm. But any success that it does have or is having is well deserved, and Logan's a top guy. He's had a good idea. Call Me Ishmael. Google it. Check it out. You should check it out too, Greg, because I think you'll like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just have it on with the sound down now. But it look. So it's I'm watching one which is actually The Fault in Our Stars by John Green.
Yeah.
It's being typed on screen as the person.
Yeah, that's just the visual device. I think he had a few different visual devices he was playing with, just so that if you're going to put these on as YouTube videos, but they're audio recordings,
you need something on the screen.
Yeah. So I mean, that's not massively relevant to it, but it just makes it. It does make it a bit easier to listen to and watch. So I think it works well, but well worth a look. So check it out. I'm sure Gray will put a link in the notes, and well done, Logan. Smart guy, clever guy.
I'm watching one for real now. This is.
It's good, Gray, but we're not going to stop the whole podcast and sit here and watch it for the next hour, are we?
I'm looking at the thing. You're right. It is captivating.
Yeah.
It's. This reminds me of. I don't know. It's very. I don't know. It's almost very Radiolab in a way. Radiolab has people call in and they do the credits, and it has a particular feel to it.
Yeah.
This is very interesting.
Cool.
Well done, Logan. All right, people should definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to stop watching now, otherwise it is really captivating.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will put that in the show notes. People should have a look. I can't believe you got callmeishmael.com. I'm kind of amazed.
I think that's his favourite book is Moby Dick, and he there's been a lot of planning going into this. He hasn't just done this on a whim. He's he's put a lot of thought into it and done a lot of the work, and the idea has evolved a lot over time. And it's fascinating. You should talk to him about it sometime. It's really fascinating. We spent a little bit of time talking to him about it. And
I've never read Moby Dick, but I have watched a lot of Star Trek: The Next Generation, so I don't know if that fully counts, but.
All right. So.
I guess you have not watched a lot of Star Trek.
I got really into Star Trek: Next Generation for a while. I went through a period where the period when I got really into them was. Oh no, I guess I wasn't that into them. The one that really gripped me for some reason, and don't judge me for this, was Voyager. I think it was just to do with timing. I just happened to have a summer where I had a few weeks off work when they were all out in the video shop, and I used to go and hire them on VHS. There were like 3 episodes. I'd watch them all. I'd go to the video shop multiple times in the day, thinking I'll just watch 2 or 3. It's before the time of box sets.
I think so. Wait a minute. You mean you go to the video shop?
Yeah. So I go to the video store and hire 2 of them.
You mean you'd rent them from the video shop?
Yeah, rent them and then take them back a few hours later and rent the next one. So I was mowing through them.
I will. Here's the thing. I will not judge you for Voyager.
Okay.
I'm not judging you for Voyager at all.
Okay.
Because I actually really quite like Voyager as well. And I know that if you like Star Trek, you're not supposed to like Voyager.
Yeah.
But I think it's also just because the age that I was when because Voyager. Because I remember watching Next Generation on TV when I was a kid, but I was a younger kid then, and I think Voyager was on at the tail end of when I was in high school. And I had my best friend in high school and his family were big Trekkies. Yeah, I've never been a huge Trekkie, but it feels like I've always been surrounded by Trekkies. Like my wife is a big Trekkie, and I always ended up watching Voyager episodes with his family when I was in high school, and so I really liked them. And yes, I think the first, well, I've ended up, I think I've watched, how many times have I gone through Voyager with my wife? I think we've gone through it fully now 2 or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Because she really likes them. But we do have to skip some of the earlier seasons because it is a little bit rough when it starts out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Voyager. I think Voyager is fun, and I think Kate Mulgrew does an amazing job as Janeway. I really like her as a captain. I know again people criticize Voyager, but I think she pulls off a really good job.
She was good.
Although I always find myself with Star Trek getting very, very frustrated with the things that I want them to do that they don't do, or the lack of consistencies with the shows. But still, they're fun, and I like Voyager, even if it is a little silly and a little low on the totem pole as far as Trekkie people go. But
Okay.
yeah.
There is something we should have discussed near the start, and
Oh, it's too late now.
yeah, well, yeah, we kind of got a bit distracted. I feel like I might bring it up now, and you can chop it, or you can leave it. And there's no rule against us bringing it up at a later date anyway.
Uh-huh.
But we haven't really explained to people, and it's gotten a bit more complicated now, what's happening with the Hello Internet YouTube channel.
Oh,
Because some people, I think, haven't quite grasped that the podcasts are going up on the YouTube channel with our stunning HD visuals. They are behind.
mm-hmm.
They're like about a season behind, basically, so that when a new one goes up there, it's usually a new one is going up in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to say that. I want people should realise that I kind of sort of said maybe we should have a broadcast date on there or something, but that probably would create a lot of headaches anyway, so we haven't done that. But people should realise that's behind. If they want to hear the up-to-date stuff talking about what's happening in our lives now as opposed to in our lives a couple of months ago, they should be listening.
So you are talking now for the people who are listening
Yeah.
on YouTube.
I just realised
That's what
that.
you're doing. Right?
I just realised that. If you're listening on YouTube, well,
right now, but of course this is maybe 2 months in the future from when we're recording it right now.
Yeah.
And when you, dear podcast listener, are listening to it right now. But really wants us in.
Or
for
you
the
could be
future
listening to the
people on
podcast
YouTube.
months in the future as well, in which case you're also behind, and maybe you're listening to this as a podcast so far into the future that this has already gone on YouTube and you're behind that even. So it does get messy. Don't do it.
You can say so far in the future that we're both dead. Right? I mean, these things might be on
Oh.
YouTube after we're both gone. You know,
That's-
you ever think about that? That's creepy. You know, what's going to happen to all those number files after you're gone?
I mean, this is already happening to me. I have had people feature in my videos who are no longer alive.
That's
a few
weird.
people, and there's that is an interesting thing. But the thing that's complicating the YouTube thing as well is this new development, which we did with the last podcast, and I think it's a good idea, but it is confusing matters even more.
Yeah, I will accept full blame for the confusion over the YouTube situation.
So what we're doing is sometimes if there's something in the iTunes podcast that we decide to cut, Grey is snipping those things out, but we'll upload it to the YouTube channel so you can listen to it kind of like as a DVD extra, or this bit got cut out but you can still listen to it. But they're going on the YouTube channel in real time, so suddenly this snippet will appear on the YouTube channel in sync with a new release here on iTunes, and well, you get the idea.
Yes. That is the basic idea, and it's only happening because there's no other place to put these little things. I don't know how often we'll do it, but for those who have just listened to the podcast who haven't subscribed on YouTube, we put a little section that was cut out of the last one where we talked for 10 minutes about WWDC, and we cut it out because the last podcast was already, I think it was over 2 hours in the end. It was just really long, and I was looking for a couple places to cut it down, and that section was one of those things where lots of people probably weren't that interested, but the people who would be interested, I know, would still want to hear it, and so I thought, okay, I have this 10-minute thing. Where should I put it? And I would put it up on YouTube because there isn't anywhere else to put it. I don't want to put it in the regular podcast feed because then that defeats the whole purpose of cutting it out in the first place. So it has to go somewhere, and so yes. If you the problem is, if you want the full Hello Internet experience, you would need to be subscribed to both the YouTube channel and the podcast because the little extras will go up on YouTube.
Yeah.
And the current up-to-date version of the podcast will always be the audio version, and the YouTube video version will always be a little bit behind the audio version. So that's the way it's going to be.
Okay.
I don't know if that's it. I'm not sure if I just made that any clearer, or if that just the more I was talking, the worse that got.
Or maybe we'll cut that bit out and make it an extra bit on the YouTube channel.
Yes, that would be the most unhelpful way to possibly do it. If you're listening to this as an extra on the YouTube channel right now, you know what happened.
Wow. So, for those of you who are still listening, and I'm imagining there aren't many of you, let's talk about breaking news.
What's breaking news?
We should talk about. Well, actually, we should do a paper cut.
You put on like a serious Brady voice all of a sudden.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to sound so serious. Let's do Brady's paper cut for the week.
Okay.
But I only want to do it briefly, and I want to use it as an excuse to just generally talk about the World Cup of football or soccer or whatever. Don't get angry for calling it soccer. I grew up in Australia calling it soccer. I now live in England and call it football.
They call it soccer in Australia? I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah, because we've got Australian rules football. That's football. Like you've got NFL type football. We've got Aussie rules, yeah. So I grew up calling it soccer. I never call it soccer now in general conversation, but when I switch into international mode,
I'll be calling it soccer. So
yeah. So it's funny. I've kind of, when I talk to Americans, I do call it soccer, but I would never normally call it soccer. Make of that what you will. I'll start with my paper cut just because I'll tell you what it is. And it very often applies to football, soccer. I get very annoyed when some former player or someone who was formerly involved in the game and no longer is, and they're now just a commentator, decide to pass some opinion about the current game. I think Billy Bloggs is a rubbish coach and should be sacked, or I think so-and-so is a terrible player, or I think Brazil is very good and they will win the World Cup. They pass some judgment. Fair enough. They're allowed to do that. Then news organisations, sport websites or newspapers report that as a significant piece of news. So the top story in a newspaper or a sports website will be Brazil are good enough to win the World Cup, says CGP Grey.
right.
Someone who's not involved in the decision making of the team, cannot affect the results in any way or the selection of the team. They're just an outsider. They have an opinion, and this gets latched onto as like a significant news story, because sport has this problem of not having many news stories until game day. But they have 7 days of news cycle to feed, so they kind of feed them. It feeds on itself in a way, and you'll have all these news reports coming out from Mr. Whatever, some former player thinks this. It annoys me no end, and it doesn't happen as much I was thinking about like analogies and where this happens elsewhere, and it annoys me equally. But the places where it happens elsewhere, it's almost kind of justified because it has to reach such a level of importance that you can't ignore it. Like if a former US president says something judgmental, that tends to get reported on. But that's fair enough. That's a former president. Even then, I sort of question whether the opinion of a former president is that important. Peace in Ireland is very important, says Bill Clinton. Well, okay, you had your time. So anyway, that annoys me. People who follow sports journalism as closely as me will either be equally annoyed or will disagree. I'm putting that out there as my paper cut. I understand you won't have much to say about it.
Well,
Don't feel obliged to say anything about it. This is what I want to talk. This is what I want.
well, no. I just, I feel this has happened with your paper cuts before, which is I have this moment of I don't understand what the problem is. I don't even get what you're complaining about.
My problem is, and we might come to this later on.
No. I mean, I know.
My problem is non-news being reported as news.
Yeah, but I mean that's all the news. All the news is non-news. To a first approximation, all news is non-news.
No, but sport, the world of sport, and football and soccer particularly in this country, is very guilty of it because they have a paucity of news during the week, but they have to fill all this space.
Yeah, just like newspapers.
Yeah, but they can shop around elsewhere to try and find their stories. Whereas if you are just reporting on this one particular sport, you can't then think, oh, okay, there's no story about, there's no big injury or no big result today that we can report on, so let's go and report on this plane crash that happened in Brazil. You can't do that because that doesn't belong in the football pages.
It's not on the beat.
Yeah, so they have to find something within their beat. And so what they do is they just feed on themselves. They do it all the time on radio too. They'll get, they've got no one to interview, so they'll just interview other sports journalists about what they think is going to happen on the weekend.
But I'm not a sports person, so I don't understand, but isn't the whole fun for people who like sports talking about what they think is going to happen? I mean, isn't the talking about it the enjoying part?
There is a place for punditry and commentary and discussion, and while some people get sick of it, I appreciate that it exists. But what happens is these kind of opinions sometimes get too much emphasis and get dressed up as news because there is no news. I'm just saying, it annoys me, right? It's paper
No. I it's fine. I'm not. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
As we speak at the moment, the World Cup of soccer is being contested. We even watched half a game together in the pub the other day. It was on. I was watching it. You weren't paying too much attention to it.
I wasn't paying attention to it until you came in.
Yeah, you didn't even know it was on. I was like, oh, I looked up at the score and went, oh my god, that's amazing. And you didn't even know it was there.
No, I've been busy. I was doing. What was I doing? I think I was going through my flashcards on my iPad. I was just waiting for you. But no, when you came in, then we watched the game together, and the team that I was voting for, the Netherlands, roundly crushed your team, Australia.
Well, they didn't roundly crush them. They beat them 3-2.
Hey,
I think it was a great performance by Australia too. But they were the better team than us. This is beside the point. Do you know what? It has made me think though, and I sometimes think this about my wife, and I think about you too. I envy you not caring about sport.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I look at how much freedom that gives you, and I wish I could not care about sport the way that you don't care about sport. You are lucky.
Just as I wish I could not care about my Kindle the way you don't care about your Kindle.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But like sport is a huge tax on time because you have to watch all these games and read so much about it, and it's so emotionally
draining. Do you have to? I mean, to listen to the language.
I do. That's the problem. That's why I say I envy.
So wait.
Like I have to.
This makes sense now. This makes sense why your paper cut is about the non-news, because you feel like you have to read these stories, and you're getting frustrated by the fact that there's nothing actually in those stories, because you feel compelled to check up on the sports news.
It's more like I want there to be a good story instead of the non-story I'm being served up.
Right.
I want better information. I don't want someone's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's but yeah, I do. I envy you going through a world where you don't care about the sports results and needing to check scores, and I mean, sport gives me great pleasure. And I laugh at how much time you spend playing games.
Yeah, I mean, this is just it. I mean, I think I think there's a thing I always want to be careful about is that there's a kind of nerd/geek tendency to feel a bit superior for not following sports, but I don't feel that at all. It's just people are interested in what they're interested in, and it's not like oh, I'm not watching sports. I'm busy doing amazing things. No, I will waste a whole afternoon on just video games. So I don't. People are just interested in what they're interested in. So yeah, I definitely don't. I have my own huge time sinks as well. So everybody has that though. I mean, that's just part of life.
Aside from the Olympics, though, I mean, obviously the World Cup is the biggest sporting event in the world. Does it affect you at all? Does this happening enter your sphere of consciousness?
Honest to God, I didn't know it was the World Cup until the Google logo told me it was the World Cup.
Okay.
I think
you've answered my question.
Thank you. But this is also just, we sort of touched on it before, and actually you touched on it earlier today. It's funny, little things like your Twitter feed can really affect what you're aware of, and I mean, it just so happens that it seems like the people I follow don't mention the World Cup or don't mention sports very often. Although I just realized, every once in a while, I follow John Green on Twitter, and he will mention something sports related, but he has some separate Twitter account that he uses to talk about sports, which maybe I should do for WWDC when that happens. But so yeah, it depends on your world. Or like when I go to Reddit, I don't have any sports related subscriptions on Reddit, but if you're a sports fan, there's tons of sports stuff on Reddit. So it's just the things that I happen to follow, just they don't report on that kind of stuff. But this is also just a side effect of, because I don't follow or I don't watch the news in general, I also just don't get updates on world events in the same way. Like the World Cup is a world event. It's hugely important to millions of people. But it just didn't cross my radar because of the way I happen to consume media. And that's not a good thing.
Do you know where it's being played, or?
Well, I mean, if you don't remember, but I asked.
All right.
I don't even know if I should. This is embarrassing, but I asked if all the games were taking place in the same city.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
And then I asked where it was, and so it was. And you had to tell me like a child. Yes, they're all in the same place, and they're in Brazil.
Yeah, they're not in the same city, but they're in the same country.
Okay.
It's not always just in one country. Sometimes they spread it to a couple, but generally it's one country.
And I do have to say, I mean, we watched the game, and as far as sports go for watching, I think soccer is much more interesting to watch than most sports. I mean, at the very bottom of that list, of course, is American football, which is the most boring thing in the whole wide world to watch because you're not watching anything happen. But no, soccer is much more interesting, and like we said, I think that the low scoring is interesting. It makes it much more kind of nail biting and much more dramatic. So I'm happy to watch a game, especially if there's a team that you can possibly support, which, Americans love to tell you, oh, I'm a quarter of this, or I'm an eighth that, or I'm half this. So I feel like the World Cup, there's almost always some team I can arbitrarily align myself with through some kind of family connection. You go, oh yeah, like when we were watching, oh, I could support the Netherlands now. Tomorrow I can support England. The day after I can support Ireland. Yeah, it's someone to pick from, so it's nice.
Yeah. Well, you can't support Ireland because they're not there, but you can have England and.
Oh, they're not there this time. That's sad.
Well, they're rarely there, but they're occasionally there. They're not very powerful.
Step it up, Ireland! Come on, I got to root for you.
So, this will lead us on to sort of the something we were going to talk about. My phone had run out of power, as it always does, when I was with you watching the football. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of cut off from the world. Straight after I left you, I got the train home and plugged in my phone and had all sorts of stuff going on the email. And this was because, lo and behold, one of my videos went reasonably viral.
Don't be modest. I looked today; it was over 2 million. Your most recent.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about 2.7 million now. But that's all. I mean, so it's had about 2.5 million views in a day and a half. So
that's not reasonably viral. That's incredibly viral.
Yeah, for me it's amazing. I mean, for Michael Stevens at Vsauce, that's probably a disappointing Saturday morning. So everything is relative. But yeah, for me it's good. So anyway, and I don't know, I don't want it to come across as like a humble brag or anything, because I want to talk about some of the things that go wrong when your video goes viral. But I'm not humble bragging. I'm really pleased, very lucky, and you know, it's good when lots of people watch your video. So I'm glad that's happening.
Yeah, it was a good video.
Yeah, it's a video about cutting cakes into pieces. I won't even bother with what it's about. But,
Well, I'll just say briefly, it is a more efficient way to cut a cake, and link is in the description, so people should take a look at it. It's very good. I like it.
Cool, thank you. So, but it is a really interesting experience, and I mean, you've probably had quite a bit more experience with me of what happens when these videos go viral. It can be a very interesting and busy period because a lot of things happen very quickly.
Yes.
The main thing, actually, I was going to ask you if this happens to you a lot. The main problem for me, or the main thing that happens for me, is other media organisations wanting to use the video.
Mm-hmm.
In particular, television. This particular one has been used by. It was on the NBC Today show and the ABC Morning Show.
Mm-hmm.
CNN wanted to use it, and it was on all these TV all around the world. Do you have, when your videos go viral, do you have as much interest from mainstream television? I would have thought not, because your videos are all animated, and they seem more interested in using humans and real footage on normal TV.
Yes, I think that's exactly the case. I do sometimes get requests from real TV to use the video, but I think much less than yours. And I was going to say that's my suspicion is the exact same thing, that an animation just does not translate as well on TV versus as it does on the internet. Whereas I get if I have a viral success, I get a lot of requests from online media of various kinds.
Yeah.
And that includes usually my arch nemesis, the newspapers. But no, not so much actual TV. But yes, they like humans. I think is the way that works.
Yeah. So I had a lot of that, and that was interesting. The way I found that tended to work was I was getting all these videos from like these TV networks saying, "Can we use your video?" And because I hadn't been online for a few hours, well, not even, just an hour or two, in almost all cases they had already used it.
Yes.
So that's what happened. Most of these I didn't even reply to, and they've just used the video. Obviously, this has been a little bit extra interesting because of the podcast and all the talk we've done about freebooting or viewjacking or whatever you want to call it. This taking of material as opposed to embedding the video. This did show me that whatever the right word for it is, I'll use freebooting because I want to. People have not understood what freebooting or viewjacking is, because a lot of people were sending me messages saying, Brady, Mashable or Dig or whatever have freebooted your video,
right? And
I was like, oh my goodness, those dirty dogs. And I would quickly go to the website to see what was going on, and in fact they had just embedded the YouTube video on their page and written a bit about it and things like that. So that is not freebooting. That is in fact doing us a favour in many ways. That is how a video goes viral.
Yes, and to be clear, I think this is a really interesting symbiotic relationship between sites like Dig and content creators. Because if you think about it from Dig's perspective, they need stuff to put on the front page. And so they want to have interesting videos. So a video like your cake video comes along, and that is what Dig feeds on all day.
Yeah.
And of course, if people look at it on Dig has advertisements around the video, but that always seems to me totally reasonable as long as they are embedding the original YouTube video, so that when people watch it, it still counts as a view for you. And I think you have the pop-up enabled, which I don't, but the ad will still show up on the bottom third of your video, so you still get some advertising revenue from that. But even for someone like me who doesn't have those pop-up ads, so if Dig embeds my video, I don't make any money if people watch it on Dig.
Do pre-rolls not play on embedded videos?
As of now, no, pre-rolls do not play on embedded videos. But always just to be clear here, for all content creators, there is the option to disallow embedding. if I wanted to, I could say no, people have to watch my video on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I think that relationship between content filters and content creators is a nice symbiotic one with videos when everybody works together. And I feel like I'm happy to link to stuff that's on other popular websites and people watch it there, because like everybody wins. I really like situations where everybody wins and everybody's on the same page.
Well, that said, it seems to me some of these sites have found a new way to freeboot, which can undermine the content creators without appearing to undermine the content creators. And that is, I've seen this in a few cases. They will create an article about whatever the topic is. Let's use the cake as an example. Embed the video, probably down low, you know, of course, but these things happen. Embed the video, maybe even link to the video on its YouTube page, so they appear to have done the right thing. But then they'll just use so many pictures and stills from the video, or the new thing is creating a GIF an animated GIF of the crucial shot.
See, that's
so there is no longer any reason to even watch the video.
Yeah.
They will just give the whole punchline in the game away, and that's what a lot of them are doing. So in the case of this cake video, obviously the essence is to show where and how you make this cuts and why you do it to for whatever reason. And so a lot of people are just making an animated GIF of those crucial cuts and putting that above the video. So even though they're embedding it and can say, look what a great internet citizen we are, they're still undercutting you in an unfair way. And I'm not complaining about it that much, because this video wouldn't have got this, you know, these millions of views if it wasn't for all these people doing it, and all of this attention and freebooting and theft by TV and newspapers comes with the virality. So, you know, it's sort of is it a symptom? Is it a cause? Is it a bit of both? So I'm not going to get too high and mighty about it, but a lot of these things have come up in interesting ways.
Yeah, I was just trying to find it, and I just with my quick googling is not popping up right straight away. But we talked about it in the copyright video, or the copyright podcast that we recently did. That in the U.S. there are these guidelines about what counts as copyright infringement. And from my reading of it, you know, the two, or the three that I remember off the top of my head that are the crucial ones are, so if someone wrote this article about your video, you say, okay, well, did they do a transformative work? No, they're just writing about it. Are they making money off of this? Yes, they're a commercial entity. And then the third one, which is the real key one, which comes back to the freebooting question of, like, when does someone cross the line of basically having hijacked your content for their own profit, does the resulting work compete with the original? And so if you're describing, I haven't seen this yet with my own stuff, and so this is a new horror that I have yet to find. But if newspapers or websites are making a GIF of the crucial moments,
the money shot,
right? The money shot, right? That is the definition of competing with the original. If someone reads that article and there is no reason to watch your video, well, now they've hit all three of the when does this count as copyright infringement triggers: non-transformative, commercial, and competitive with the original. And so that's just awful. That's and yes, I understand it. You don't want to feel like, oh, I'm crying tears of sadness over my millions of views, but I think that people can understand the feeling of having spent a lot of time working on and making something, and then getting either not credited for it, or improperly credited, or just watching other organizations basically act as parasites on your own work. And at any level, that's very, very frustrating to see happen. And it's doubly frustrating when it directly impacts your livelihood. And you see these other organizations basically making money off of your own work. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've certainly been exploited quite a lot over the last couple of days, but I've also been very lucky, and I'm not going to be hungry in the street because of it. So I don't want to. It is also interesting the different ways in which they all differently muck it up. Some of them are really good with their credits, but they won't link to you, and other ones will link to you but won't credit you, and others very few people seem to do it right, or in a way that I think is fair.
I'll take a link without credit over credit without a link any day, because I feel like we're on the internet. Linking is what you do. This is being a good internet citizen, is linking. And I get furious with and I don't want to bring up Imager and Reddit, but I see this on Imager and Reddit all the time, where people seem to think that it's totally okay to upload. This always happens with webcomics, but people upload some webcomic artist's work to Imager, link to all of the comics on Imager, and then they'll say in the comments, John Smith drew all of this. It's not okay. Like, just mentioning where it came from, but not linking to John Smith's website that's not cool. Like, it's not all settled just because you mentioned where it came from.
Well, crediting YouTube is another annoyance. They'll say this copyright YouTube or courtesy of YouTube.
I see that all the time.
That's very frustrating.
That is so frustrating.
They steal photos from your screen grabs, and they'll watermark a little copyright YouTube in the bottom.
Now where's because here's I want to pull up the link that you sent me, because I thought this was great for talking about it. So you sent me this little clip from, where was it? Is it ABC News?
Yeah, that was the ABC Good Morning Show. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's ABC News, and they're talking about your video, and they started by saying a team of mathematicians and scientists at Numberphile have been working on the solution for how to cut a cake. Now, what I love about this is every part of that sentence is wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing is correct. A team of mathematicians and scientists? No. First of all, there's one guy in the video
who's not a mathematician or a scientist.
Who's not a mathematician or a scientist. At Numberphile, at least as of now, is not some kind of great mathematical scientific institution.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe someday it will be. And then have discovered, this is what, it's 100 years old? It's like, this is the kind of thing I see in the news all the time, and I think people just aren't aware of how much stuff in the news is just totally wrong if you know anything about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand that from this little news segment's perspective, the fact that every part of that sentence is wrong doesn't really matter, because they just want to show the part of your video where they're cutting the cake. But it's like, guys, just the barest minimum of trying to get it right, would have changed that opening sentence. But there's no incentive to get it right. There's no incentive from their perspective to get it right, so they're not going to ever bother to get it right. But anyway, I just had to mention that because I just love that opener.
It was great. I mean, as you said, this was something that was published in Nature 100 years ago, and we just did it as a fun piece with this this mathematical author who just talked about, look at this, let me tell you about this fun thing that he was quite a famous mathematician. In his spare time, came up with this cake cutting method. We made a video about it. People find it interesting because it's 100 years old and no one's seen it, so it's new to many people.
Yes, and it's a clever solution.
Yeah. Funnily enough, Alex made his own little video about it 4 years ago or something that wasn't very popular. So it's not even like, we were the first people to dig it up in 100 years.
It's not even new to YouTube.
Yeah. So anyway. That puts the news organisations in a difficult situation. Now, they can honestly report it as news if they make the fact the video has gone viral the news. So a video showing this has become wildly popular.
Yes.
That's kind of newsy. I mean, the video becomes popular every day, so what ones do you pick? But
still, at least we're in the ballpark of a story.
But they just never get it right. They always because it's more newsy if it's a new discovery, and it's easier just to say that. Maybe they, I don't know if they know or not. I think they probably don't. And another favourite of mine was the Mail Online, which is unbelievably didn't freeboot the video. I mean, they completely.
I was shocked.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
they completely went to town with graphics and pictures and everything, so people wouldn't watch the video. So I still feel like they did. The funny thing was they emailed me and said, "Can we put the video on our player?" And I said they couldn't, but they could embed it. And then I realised the article was already up. So I went to the article thinking, oh, I know what's going to happen here.
Mm-hmm.
And amazingly, they had embedded the YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked. So there's something. There's some development. But they'd still, But their article was funny because they said the article's all about this guy called Alex Bellos who calls himself Numberphile on YouTube. So they still got it wrong as well. Like this one guy that's just made a cameo in a one-off video. Suddenly, this guy is Numberphile.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, yeah.
I know. Oh, that's what I said. Just the whole. I mean, we talked about this in the news episode, but from my perspective, there is structurally no reason to care, so they're not going to care.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah. Well, there's no financial. And it comes down to money in the end. There's no financial reason to get it right.
That's part of what I mean by structure. Money can be one kind of structure, but the ways in which a standard commercial organization operate won't provide structure that encourages employees like reporters to get it right. So they're just not going to because the reporters just can't. We discussed it before, but. It's still very frustrating to be on the receiving end of that, and there's no point in even writing to them to try and correct anything. They don't care. They'll never change it. So.
Well, and the funny thing, I once was that guy. I've written newspaper stories where I've made mistakes and gotten things wrong, and people have called me up upset. And sometimes I thought they were wrong. Sometimes, I made a mistake, and to me it was no big, to me I felt bad, but it was, I just got on with life. But then you realise when you're on the other side, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But it is, for better or worse though, I mean obviously all these things happen you don't like, all these things happen you do like. But it is a funny, intense period when this happens, isn't it? Like for a few hours or a few days, lots of things are happening very quickly and you can't keep up with it. You can't control it. You can't even really figure out why it's happening to learn from it. You can't figure out what's better than what's good and bad. It's then it's over. A couple of days later it's over, and you're like, oh, how can I make that happen again? Because it's very good. It's very good to have a video get watched lots of times, but you kind of at the end of it, you're like, oh, I don't really know what happened then. Or how it happened.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can try to strategize, but I mean I know from experience that I am more often wrong than I am right about my own videos and how well they will do. I'll often have a feeling of like, this one isn't so great, and then it does amazingly well, and I have the exact reverse feeling of guaranteed millions of views, and then doesn't happen, and you just that is just the way it is. I mean, what I would say is that there are reasons why one goes viral and another one doesn't, but they are just beyond the scope of a limited mind. You can't possibly know why it happens. So, but the best you can do is you just make stuff that you hope people like, and sometimes they spread and sometimes they don't, but it's not really under your control. You're just making little presents for the internet, and you hope that the internet shares it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But there's little that can go into that ahead of time to try to make it be shared. But
when it's actually happening to you, and there's that strange heady period where your Twitter's going crazy and your email's going crazy and all these different things are going on, is your attitude to knuckle down and reply to what you can and try and manage what you can, or do you have an attitude of, well, I'm going to shut everything down and go and play SimCity and just let it?
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought up the video games, because it's no accident that I usually take a day or two after the videos for what I always think of as my monthly weekend. Like I take one real weekend a month and just give myself permission to do nothing. except mess around. But part of the reason for that is because I do also feel like I want to be on call at any moment if something happens with the videos. And sometimes it definitely does. It's strange, as you can see. You can put up a video and maybe nothing will happen the first day, but the second day all of a sudden it's really popular.
Yeah.
And so I particularly, I like to have video games where I can alt tab out really easily to check up on email and Twitter and see how things are going. And if a video is particularly viral, there's often stuff that needs to be done in some sense or another, and so I like to be able to do that at any moment.
Yeah.
But I still do treat it like it's my regular email. I don't happen to reply to stuff that I wouldn't on those days. But I am like leaving email open and seeing what's coming in and still making quick, delete flag, delete reply responses. But I like to see what's happening on Twitter. And I sort of mentioned it before, but I do talk about the symbiotic relationship between various websites. I do like to try to mention on Twitter websites that embed or give credit properly. So I do like to try to encourage the people in this ecosystem who are behaving well.
Yeah, that's good policy.
And so I'll say, the latest video, go watch it on Dig, or one website that's really good with this is Devour. I'll say, Devour, my video has made it over there. Go watch it. So I feel, at least in a tiny way, I want to have a positive feedback loop for the sites that bother to do it properly, instead of just always complaining about the sites that don't.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I keep an eye out for when I'm just looking around. And I do have particular websites that I'm always pleased to see if a video makes it onto. So there's a couple places that I like to check and see, has it made it there, and then that's usually a good sign, and try to send off like a thank you note or something like that. But yeah, it's a funny time. It can be both very, there's that sort of like lots to do and sort of nothing that's under your control at the same time.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it happens again sometime.
Yes, with the next number file video.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen with the next. I don't know. It depends. No.
You never know.
The funny thing is though, making any, I don't know if I've said this before, but when I used to work in newspapers, no matter what story I was working on, I always wondered how it could make it to the front page. Could this be the front page story tomorrow?
Right.
Like, you'd somehow twist it in your head that you'd end up with a great photo where it will just catch the editor's eye in a certain way. So even if you're doing the most banal story, you'd think, I hope this ends up on the front page. And I think it's the same with YouTube videos. Even when you're making one that all logic tells you, well, this one's just going to be a bit of a normal video that your normal people will watch and no one else will. You always think, I wonder if there's some way that this could catch someone's attention and go a bit bigger. So I was about to say no, the next number 5 video, I can assure you will not go viral, but you do still think in the back of your head, but maybe.
You do. We are different here. There are many a video that I have released, basically in a state of despair. I released the video and I think, this is just terrible.
Yeah, but that's just because of what you're like. That's just you.
But that's what you're saying. You think everyone. With that, I have definitely had ones where that is the case, where I think this is just, I can't believe I'm even releasing this, and then it does really well. But it's because you're too quick. My best example of that one is actually the Canada-USA border video.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, lots of people love it. I felt awful about that video at the time of release. I thought, but it's just I was working on it for too long, and you lose perspective. But I have the reverse. Like I said, I have ones that I think, it's totally gonna. This is a home run, no problem, and then just a normal video. So I don't necessarily think that all of mine are going to be amazing. I tend to have extreme thoughts one way or the other about them, and then I just learn from experience. Say, okay, just release it, see how it does. There's nothing you can do. Just sit back and wait.
But now, if you cut it, you can put it in the extra bits on the YouTube channel.
No, don't. I'm not making any promises.